Chapter 15:12. Su Fang vaguely understood what was going on, and his heart started pounding. The answer was obvious. However, he was not sure yet. Let's wait and see. Boom. Su Fang's power of perception sensed that an invisible thing was expanding inside Yu Miaomei's body, and then it suddenly burst out with an astonishing amount of essence qi. Caught off guard, the essence qi flooded every corner of Yu Miaomei's body instantly. Then, the essence qi was attracted by Su Fang's yang qi, and rushed into Su Fang's body from his palms, entering the yin-yang Dao wheel. Qi. Before Su Fang could react, the essence qi entered the yin-yang Dao wheel formed by the 42 yang meridians, and suddenly caused a tremor. The 43rd yang meridian was condensing, and was about to be born. Unexpectedly, a yang meridian was about to be born when he removed Yu Miaomei's yang body. The reason was the strange power that Yu Miaomei suddenly awakened. Su Fang was shocked and then overjoyed. Since the 42nd yang meridian was born, the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth was injured, and it took a lot of effort to recover. Su Fang thought that it would take a long time, and also need a fortuitous encounter to birth the 43rd yang meridian. How could Su Fang miss such an opportunity? He immediately activated the 9 changes of the 9 suns, and used all the power of the yin-yang Dao wheel to absorb the special essence qi in Yu Miaomei's body to attack the yang meridian that was about to be born. In an instant, the yin-yang Dao wheel burned wildly and trembled. The impact also passed through the world seed, and Su Fang's world yin-yang power kept increasing. At the same time, he activated the origin sacred realm, and absorbed the extreme cold yin qi into his body. At the same time, Su Fang also paid attention to Yu Miaomei's body, and released yang qi, which merged with the special essence qi in Yu Miaomei's body, as if yin and yang dual cultivation. This state lasted for 3 days. Yu Miaomei's body quieted down, and she stopped absorbing Su Fang's yang qi, and fell into a deep sleep. It was not because of any other reason, but because the ancient artifact spirit had awakened. Yu Miaomei's body and consciousness had suddenly obtained too much special essence and consciousness, which required a certain amount of time to fuse. Therefore, she had temporarily fainted. The impact in Su Fang's yin-yang Dao wheel had also reached a critical moment. Take Miao Mei to rest. Her yang absolute physique has been eradicated. She will wake up in a few days. Don't worry. A divine might wrapped around Yu Miaomei, and she slowly fell into Yu Miaoyin's arms. Thank you, Senior. After Yu Miaoyin expressed her gratitude, she excitedly left with her sister. When Miaomei wakes up, I hope she is still that naive little girl, and not an old and decrepit artifact spirit. Su Fang sighed. The sleeping tool spirit in Yu Miaomei's body was the biggest secret of the Yu family. Su Fang had already guessed the whole story. This was Yu Miaomei's fate as a member of the Yu family, and no one could change it. After lamenting for a while, Su Fang entered the true dragon realm. When he arrived at the cultivation dojo, Su Fang immediately activated the illusory fire cloud and the 9 suns celestial fire to attack the 43rd yang meridian that was about to be born. His entire body turned into a flame state. Qi. A flame swept across the yin-yang Dao wheel and poured into the meridian that was being attacked. The 43rd yang meridian that was in a state of burning was immediately extinguished, and it became a simple meridian with a jade-like color. The 43rd yang meridian was successfully born. This yang meridian also automatically moved and merged with the 42nd yang meridian of the yin-yang Dao wheel. In this way, the yin-yang Dao wheel had 43 yang meridian. The yang power became even more vast, and the entire yin-yang Dao wheel became even more profound. Not only that, the heaven and earth Tao Palace formed by the yang meridian and the world seed was like the supreme Tao of heaven. It emitted a mysterious and abstruse divinity, and it emitted rays of divinity. The Xianming Lightning Archive, the Underworld Reincarnation Sword, and the Sword Pill that he had just obtained bathed in this divinity, causing the Tao artifacts to also have a trace of divinity. As the Yang meridian increased, not only did Su Fang's Yang power and abilities transform, but his cultivation of the supreme Tao of heaven also improved. Let's go and meet that mysterious senior. Su Fang separated his Yang infant and entered the chaos essence sacred realm. When he came to the space of the crimson ancient mirror, he could barely fly slowly. This was unimaginable in the past. He activated his Yang power and mind and waited for the mysterious woman to appear. However, after a long time, the familiar 9 cold chi did not appear. The mysterious woman is unwilling to see me. It's obviously because of the Ji Hong celestial supremacy. How strange. Could that senior know the Ji Hong celestial supremacy? Su Fang was full of doubts. His Yang immortal left the space of the mirror. Next, Su Fang transformed into a blood-water state and kept swallowing the yin-yang immortal sky elixir, divine essence elixir, and spiritual items to replenish the yang qi and true qi that was used to form the 43rd yang meridian. About half a year later, Su Fang's yin-yang Tao wheel was filled with a vast amount of yang power again. Even his cultivation base had increased rapidly due to the large number of divine essence elixirs he had consumed. He was charging toward the peak of the 6 paths of the Saint Immortal Realm from the normal state. Suddenly, the great monk's voice came from outside the true dragon realm. "Master, someone has come to provoke us and injured Li Haojia and the Lord of 5 Poisons." Su Fang raised his eyebrows and flew out of the true dragon realm. When he walked out of the palace, he saw that Li Haojia and the Lord of 5 Poisons' auras were very weak. Fortunately, they were not seriously injured. The person who attacked them was Feng Ling. Su Fang said coldly, "Feng Ling, what's the meaning of this?" Feng Ling said indifferently, "Tian Bao, I want to fight you. Just because of this, you injured my friend?" Su Fang's deep eyes exuded coldness. "The Ji Hong celestial supremacy said that you have the strength to crush me. Moreover, you have cultivated for less than 10,000 years, causing my Tao heart to become unstable. Therefore, he came to you to verify it, but he was stopped by them. You want to fight, so I have to accept? Feng Ling, I thought you were crazy. I didn't expect you to be so domineering." Feng Ling stared at Su Fang. "Whether you are willing or not, you have to accept my challenge. Otherwise, I won't just injure your friend, I will kill him. I don't like to accept boring challenges. However, since you want to humiliate yourself, I will fulfill your wish. This time, I'm afraid your Tao heart will become even more unstable." Su Fang's eyes flashed with fierce killing intent. Then, he flew into the sky and passed through the outer array of the World Palace, arriving high in the sky. Whoosh! Feng Ling followed closely behind. Whoosh! Whoosh! With the Ji Hong celestial supremacy as the leader, the World Palace's palace master, various big shots, upper echelons, and special disciples like Ling Yu had also come. At the end of the Star River, Su Fang and Feng Ling had crossed swords once, but they were evenly matched. The Ji Hong celestial supremacy had concluded that Su Fang had the strength to crush Feng Ling. Most people found it hard to believe. Now that Feng Ling had challenged Su Fang again, they naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity. The Ji Hong celestial supremacy said in a majestic voice, "Su Fang, don't go too far. Don't kill Feng Ling, Lord Celestial Supremacy. I, Feng Ling, will prove to you that your judgment is wrong." Feng Ling shouted coldly. After forming the seal, he used the power of the world to borrow power from the stars and extract essence from the heaven and earth. He fused it with his divine ability, exploding with a shocking earth element divine power. He created his own space in the void. In an instant, close to 10,000 miles of space turned into a vast land, and Feng Ling was the absolute ruler of the space. He controlled the energy, laws, and even the world in this area. Heavenly treasure. No, I should call you Su Fang. This time, in the heaven and earth, my strength isn't shackled. The divine ability I explode is 10 times more than in the trial space. I have the strength to fight with a celestial supremacy. Show me your full strength, or else I can't guarantee your safety. Feng Ling said proudly. Feng Ling has cultivated for less than 1,000,000 years, but he has the strength to fight with a celestial supremacy. It's unbelievable. He's the most outstanding genius in the history of the World Palace. Even in the entire Great World, he's rare. I'm afraid the Ji Hong celestial supremacy has misjudged this time. Does Su Fang have strength that's stronger than a normal celestial supremacy? The upper echelons of the World Palace discussed and naturally scoffed at the Ji Hong celestial supremacy's words. However, no one dared to show it. Explode my full strength? I'm afraid you don't have that qualification. Since my master said that I have the strength to crush you, then I'll let you have a taste of being crushed. Su Fang shouted coldly. A silver thumb ring appeared on the thumb of his right hand. It was the sword pill that he had just obtained. Since Feng Ling dared to injure Li Haojie and the Lord of Five Poisons, he naturally had to teach him a lesson. However, Su Fang didn't want to expose too many secrets in front of everyone. It was a good opportunity to test his newly obtained doctrine artifact on Feng Ling Wush. The sword pill was activated by Su Fang. Like a silver lightning, it tore the shackles of Feng Ling's world divine might apart and disappeared from the void, leaving behind an afterimage. When it reappeared, Su Fang was already more than 100 feet away from Feng Ling. What a fast speed! Isn't that Luo Jianxing's doctrine artifact? How did it fall into Su Fang's hands? In the trial space of the Star River, Luo Jianxing was killed by Su Fang. Naturally, the doctrine artifact fell into Su Fang's hands. However, Su Fang was able to integrate the doctrine artifact in such a short time. No wonder he was born with the ability to control Dharma treasures. When the higher-ups of the World Palace saw the sword pill, there was another round of discussion. They were amazed by Su Fang's ability to integrate and control Dharma treasures. Feng Ling's divine light changed instantly. He didn't have time to release any aura to attack. Instead, he quickly formed a seal in front of him to form an earth divine might barrier, forming a solid defense. The defensive ability of the earth divine might was the strongest among all the forces of nature. The earth barrier that Feng Ling created at this time was so strong that even an ordinary celestial prime expert would have to spend some effort to break it. It could be said that it was impregnable. Who knew that in the next moment? Su Fang activated his sword pill and shot out thin silver threads of sword qi, riddling the layers of earth elemental barriers with holes. Although they didn't shatter completely, they were no longer as firm as before. Moreover, after the extremely sharp sword qi pierced through the earth barrier, its power didn't diminish and shot toward Feng Ling. =R download address. Mobile reading. Bibliographic review. Chapter 1513. Such a sharp sword intent. Feng Ling's divine light changed instantly, and his eyes revealed a look of disbelief. The earth element was best at defense. Feng Ling was very confident in his defensive divine ability. Even when facing the full-powered attacks of the World Palace's authorities, he could still hold on for a few breaths without collapsing. With the buffer time, he could easily execute his offensive divine ability. However, his defensive divine ability was as weak as tofu before the attack of the sword pill. Feng Ling had no choice but to perform a hand seal and unleash a shocking aura to shatter the silver threads of sword intent. At this moment, boom boom boom, Su Fang activated the dragon-subduing true body and turned into a terrifying dragon man. At the same time, he also activated the ability of the faceless golden dipper body, allowing him to enter the form of a divine dragon and metal at the same time. Cultivating the 9 changes of the 9 suns and possessing the ability of the Tao physique allowed Su Fang's various abilities to perfectly merge and complement each other. The dragon's scales on its body were no longer green. Instead, they were golden and shiny. Su Fang's aura became fierce and sharp with an unstoppable aura. He was alone, but it felt like he was facing an army of thousands of men and horses. The current Su Fang was like a golden dragon man, awe-inspiring and incomparably domineering. Boom boom boom. Su Fang charged forward with his body. The earth element defensive divine ability that Feng Ling had created was shattered into pieces. It did not stop Su Fang's speed at all. He charged toward Feng Ling like a hot knife through butter. Boom. Feng Ling did not have time to perform a hand seal. He could only unleash his true qi to clash with Su Fang's dragon claws. He was knocked back by the powerful and overwhelming force. The combination of the dragon-subduing true body and the faceless golden dipper body allowed Su Fang to possess a strong physical strength comparable to an ordinary immortal highness. Even if he did not use any divine ability or Dao weapon, he could still crush all cultivators below the immortal highness realm. Boom boom boom. Su Fang pushed forward aggressively. His attack was like a tide and his aura was fierce. Feng Ling did not even have time to catch his breath. Su Fang did not use any divine ability. He wanted to use this direct and violent method to crush Feng Ling and avenge Li Haojia and the Lord of Five Poisons. Faceless golden dipper body. An immortal venerable from World Palace saw through Su Fang's phaseless golden dipper body. His eyes were first filled with incomparable shock, but soon after they burned with anger and hatred. Why was this so? Jin Wuxiang was the disciple of the immortal Highness. Although he did not understand how Su Fang was able to obtain Jin Wuxiang's faceless golden aura body, he was naturally enraged when he witnessed the murderer of his disciple using the ability that his disciple possessed. Earth! Feng Ling let out a furious roar and burst out with an astonishing divine might. An earth-shaking and mountain-shaking aura swept out in all directions and stopped Su Fang's fierce attack for a moment. Heaven shaking. Then, Feng Ling struck out an earth-shattering fist. He condensed the power of the earth element in the world into a huge fist. It crushed toward Su Fang with the power to shake the sky. Feng Ling's aura suddenly became sluggish. His face was pale. He had been hit by Su Fang's heavy attack. Now, he had used up so much of his energy that he could bear. Whoosh! At the instant Feng Ling's aura enveloped Su Fang conjured his sword pill once again. He tore through the shackles and instantly tore through the void, appearing less than 10 feet away from Feng Ling. Feng Ling's extremely powerful divine power had completely missed. Golden Tyrant Dragon Claw. Su Fang's right arm vibrated in the air as he threw out a golden claw that was over 100 feet long. Although the Golden Tyrant Dragon Claw was not a divine ability, it was the simplest and most suitable attack among the divine abilities of the Dragon Clan. At this moment, Su Fang used his dragon-subduing true body and the formless golden dipper body to make the claw seem real. Its power increased by several times, and it was extremely sharp. Poof! Feng Ling's aura shattered. A deep wound was left on his body from his right shoulder to his abdomen. He almost had his intestines ripped open. Su Fang took a step forward and extended his right hand that had transformed into a dragon claw. He grabbed Feng Ling's head. He only needed to use a little strength to crush Feng Ling's head. Feng Ling was defeated. He was completely defeated. Just as the Ji Hong Immortal Lord said, he was completely crushed by Su Fang. The upper echelons of World Palace and the special disciples, as well as Tuoyu, were all shocked. Especially Tuoyu. At this moment, Su Fang was like a tall mountain in his eyes that could not be surpassed. The Ji Hong Immortal Lord stroked his white beard and looked at Su Fang with admiration. "I said that you will only be humiliating yourself if you challenge me," Su Fang said coldly. Feng Ling's eyes were burning with vigor. He looked abnormally excited. He said with a smile, "Great. I never thought that I, Feng Ling, would be crushed like this one day. All along, I have been looking for a defeat. This time, I admit my defeat wholeheartedly. I can die without regret. After saying that, he closed his eyes. He did not care about his life or death at all. This is a madman who only knows how to cultivate. Su Fang also felt helpless. At the same time, he also admired Feng Ling. Feng Ling is a peerless genius of World Palace. You have already severely injured him. Why are you still not letting him go? Do you want to kill him? Let Feng Ling go. A World Palace immortal lord suddenly shouted coldly and rushed towards Su Fang. This person was Jin Wuxiang's master. He seemed to be saving Feng Ling, but in fact, he was targeting Su Fang. His deep eyes were filled with killing intent. Su Fang's life-shrinking technique immediately sensed this person's killing intent towards him. At the same time, he also sensed the aura that was connected to Jin Wuxiang's fate from this person. So you want to avenge Jin Wuxiang? I thought Jin Wuxiang was very secretive. I didn't expect him to see through it. Luckily, I have a powerful backer. Su Fang smiled and raised the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, Su Fang shouted in the air while trembling, "Master, save me! Someone wants to kill me in front of you!" Everyone was once again dumbfounded. In an instant, they labeled Su Fang as despicable and shameless. The World Palace Immortal Lord sneered and said, "You are so ruthless. Not only did you kill Jin Wuxiang, you even dared to attack Feng Ling. Even Ji Hong Immortal Lord will not allow you to do this. Who dares to touch my disciple in front of me?" Ji Hong Immortal Lord said in a majestic voice. A divine aura that was like the heavenly Tao enveloped the World Palace Immortal Lord who tried to attack Su Fang. Although this Immortal Lord was also a Immortal Lord, he was only an ordinary Immortal Lord. Ji Hong Immortal Lord's realm was much higher than his, so he immediately shackled him. "Master Ji Hong Immortal Lord, please don't misunderstand. How would I dare to hurt your disciple? I just want to save Feng Ling. I have no other intentions." The World Palace Immortal Lord squeezed out a smile and explained while trembling. "Who are you?" Feng Ling asked for it. "How to deal with him is my disciple's business. Do you have the right to interfere?" Boom! As soon as Ji Hong Immortal Lord's cold voice fell, a divine aura of the heavenly Tao landed on the World Palace Immortal Lord. Puff! The World Palace Immortal Lord spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura instantly became weak, and he was already in a severely injured state. This is only a warning. If there is a next time, I will kill you directly," Ji Hong Immortal Lord shouted in a domineering manner. Everyone was dumbstruck, and they all turned into ice sculptures. A World Palace Immortal Lord had been severely injured by Ji Hong Immortal Lord before he could do anything to Su Fang. It was simply unreasonable for him to be so protective of his disciple to such an extent. However, Ji Hong Immortal Lord's strength was strong, and he was also a Immortal Lord from the heavenly fate Hao Tsang sect. Even the World Palace Master could only swallow his anger in the face of his domineering manner. Instead, he had to apologize to him with a smile. Su Fang was also shocked and stunned. This master that he had taken as his disciple for no reason was really not an ordinary kind of domineering. At the same time, he could not help but feel a trace of warmth in his heart. Although Su Fang hated Feng Ling for injuring Li Haojie and the Lord of Five Poisons, he did not really want to kill him. Su Fang also admired such a peerless genius, so he immediately let go of him. "Su Fang, if you let me go today, you will definitely regret it in the future. I, Feng Ling, will challenge you again and again until I surpass you," Feng Ling said loudly as a determined look flashed in his eyes. "You better not have too much hope. That will only make you suffer setbacks again and shake your Tao heart." Su Fang smiled faintly as a strong sense of confidence rose up spontaneously. After going through this storm, Su Fang's dazzling brilliance gradually rose. Some geniuses who were originally unconvinced of him as a foreign cultivator were completely convinced. Even the World Palace immortal lords were extremely wary of him. On one hand, they wanted him to quickly enter the dragon's saliva pond and leave World Palace as soon as possible. On the other hand, they wanted Jun Moyan, an immortal lord, to try their best to get close to Su Fang and befriend him. About 5 years later, Yu Mei finally woke up when she was about to enter the dragon's saliva pond. On the surface, the little girl did not seem to have changed much. However, a great change had occurred to her body. Her eyes became incomparably deep, making it difficult for people to see through them. Su Fang used his great perfection ability to sense Yu Mei's aura and found that there was an astonishing amount of worldly essence in her body. When this power was awakened, Su Fang absorbed it, causing Su Fang to successfully form his 43rd yang meridian. Yu Mei had also absorbed Su Fang's power of 9 suns, causing the spiritual qi in her body to possess Su Fang's power. And this was what he saw on the surface. Su Fang sensed that Yu Mei's aura faintly carried a divine might that evolved between the real and the illusory. This was the essence of the ethereal quintessence, the evolution from the illusory to the real, and from the real to the illusory. However, Yu Mei did not obtain it through cultivation, but as if she was born with it. Yu Mei herself did not understand what had happened to her body. She only felt that she had slept for a long time. After waking up, her body was different from before. Her mind was in a daze, and some strange things had appeared, but she could not figure out what they were. Su Fang peeled off a yang immortal and entered the blood-colored cage in the blood jade. He asked, "Luo, can a Tao artifact spirit really reside in a physical body? Logically speaking, it's impossible. However, Yu Yin's situation is clearly a little special." Luo pondered for a long time and then said slowly, "It should be that the ethereal spiritual master sealed the artifact spirit of the manifestation of nature's dharma into the bloodline of his clansmen for some reason. After generations of reproduction, fusion, and inheritance, the artifact spirit became the same as a cultivator's primordial spirit. In Yu Mei's body, the artifact spirit found a suitable host and finally awakened, becoming a spiritual body with a living body. =R download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1514. Yu Mei is actually the artifact spirit of the 10,000 manifestations Dharma. That's why she was born with the divine power of the ethereal enlightenment. If she cultivates the ethereal enlightenment, no one will be able to match her. Even I can't predict her future achievements. She might even be comparable to the human-shaped divine artifact forged by the Heavenly Treasure Emperor. A.P. Law speculated. Su Fang judged that the truth of the matter shouldn't be too far from Law's speculations. Such a bizarre matter actually existed. Su Fang couldn't help but marvel at the wonders of the great world's various divine abilities and forbidden techniques. He felt even more admiration for the ethereal spiritual master. Law continued, "Only by continuously cultivating the ethereal enlightenment can Yu Mei's inherited memories gradually awaken. At that time we can easily find the 10,000 manifestations Dharma through her." Su Fang didn't plan to use Yu Yin to find the 10,000 manifestations Dharma. In Law's eyes, Yu Yin might be an artifact spirit with a living body. However, in Su Fang's eyes, Yu Yin was a living person. She was as close as a little sister. "Senior," Yu Yin looked like she wanted to say something but stopped. Su Fang waved his hand and said, "You don't have to call me senior. Just call me by my name. If you have anything to say, just say it." "Actually, Mei is. I already know. There's no need to say any more." Su Fang interrupted Yu Yin. Yu Yin's eyes were filled with surprise. After a moment of silence, she said resolutely, "I've discussed it with the clan leader. I want to entrust Mei to you." Mei has also agreed. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. "Why is that? If Mei stays in the Yu clan, not only will it be detrimental to her growth, but once her talent is exposed, it will also bring disaster to her and the Yu clan." Only you have the ability to help her grow quickly and have the strength to protect her. Su Fang was a little hesitant. At this moment Yu Mei suddenly said, "Heavenly treasure, are you not willing to take responsibility for me?" Su Fang was stunned. "Take responsibility for you? I've already dual cultivated with you. If you don't take responsibility for me, who will?" Su Fang almost choked on his words. Previously, in order to save Yu Mei, Su Fang's 9-yang power had fused with the special spiritual energy in her body. It could be considered a kind of yin-yang dual cultivation. But why did it sound so weird to be practicing yin-yang dual cultivation with such a young girl? Lien Yuan looked at Su Fang with a strange expression. The reason why Yu Mei was so close to Su Fang, other than the fact that Su Fang's yang qi was extremely attractive to spiritual bodies, there was another reason, and that was the purple qi dharma spirit. Weapon spirits were naturally fearful of the purple qi dharma spirit's ability to control magic treasures, as well as the primordial purple qi. However, they could not help but want to get close to the purple qi dharma spirit. Su Fang had no choice but to agree. Anyway, the Zhenlong realm was so big. With Bai Ling accompanying her, Yu Mei would not be lonely. In addition, Su Fang's comprehension of the ethereal true insight had reached a very high level. He could also give pointers to Yu Mei's cultivation. "Tianbao, I knew you were a responsible man." Yu Mei cheered. Su Fang's head swelled. With such a mischievous little girl by his side, he would have a lot of headaches in the future. After another year, it was finally time to enter the dragon's saliva pond. On this day, a higher-up of the World Palace came through the array formation. Su Fang, Li Haojie, the Lord of 5 Poisons, and the great monk Shang De headed to a mystic realm in the World Palace to prepare to enter the dragon's saliva pond. Under the guidance of the higher-up of the World Palace, Su Fang and the others passed through the layers of array formations and barriers within the World Palace. They arrived at the back of the World Palace and entered the inner void of a ruin that was protected by layers of array formations. This was a large material continent. It also had natural spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The continent was filled with forests and rivers. The spiritual qi was abundant. It was like an otherworldly paradise. Soon, they arrived at a winding mountain range. Looking down from the sky, the mountain range was like a huge dragon crouching on the ground. It was vivid and lifelike. Could this mountain range be the place where the divine dragon's corpse is buried? Su Fang asked the higher-up of the World Palace who was leading the way. The higher-up answered very politely, "The mountain range isn't the place where the divine dragon is buried. The entire mountain range was formed by the divine dragon's corpse." Su Fang and the others were shocked. Su Fang activated his great perfection stage ability to sense. Indeed, he saw that the mountain range covered by dense trees had an abundant amount of dragon qi. The entire mountain range had a vast and sacred aura equals N_1. It was unknown how long this divine dragon had fallen, but it still had such a terrifying aura. It could be seen how powerful the divine dragon was when it was alive. The peerless expert of the World Palace, who sealed the divine dragon's corpse and created the dragon's saliva pond, was obviously not an ordinary celestial venerable. Flying above the mountain range and sensing the abundant dragon qi, the dragon's subduing true body trembled uncontrollably. It seemed to be abnormally active, as if it couldn't wait. Su Fang sealed the dragon's subduing true body to prevent others from noticing anything unusual. At the same time, Su Fang was filled with anticipation. If I devour enough dragon qi, and it's the aura of a real divine dragon, my dragon subduing true body will definitely mature. By then, my physical body and recovery ability will definitely undergo another transformation. If I activate the dragon subduing true body, I might be able to transform into a real divine dragon. The World Palace higher-up continued. The dragon's saliva pond is built inside the divine dragon's body. It only opens once every 1,000,000 years. Even I was lucky enough to enter it when I was promoted to a higher-up. It's almost impossible for other disciples to have such an opportunity. You must seize this opportunity well. Su Fang sized up the person and asked, I heard that the dragon birth pond has the effect of being reborn and breaking through the shackles of cultivation. Sir, I see that you're still at the peak of the saint immortal realm. Why is that? The world palace higher up blushed and sighed. How difficult is it to become a celestial venerable expert? The dragon saliva pond only increases the chances of becoming a celestial venerable by 1 level. Although I was lucky enough to enter the dragon saliva pond once, I still couldn't break through the shackles. I have no hope of becoming a supreme celestial venerable in my lifetime. Su Fang sighed. The path of cultivation was filled with difficulties and obstacles. A celestial venerable was the supreme among immortals. The chances of becoming a celestial venerable expert were extremely slim. The dragon saliva pond could only increase the chances of becoming a celestial venerable by 1 level. Countless people broke their heads to get a chance, but they might not be able to become a celestial venerable as they wished. Su Fang transmitted his soul to Li Haojie and the others. This is a rare opportunity. Absorb as much as you can later. Although we're still very far away from becoming a celestial venerable, the dragon saliva pond's marrow cleansing will definitely be of great help to our cultivation in the future. Li Haojie and the others were far from the peak of the saint immortal realm. Naturally, they wouldn't be able to become a celestial venerable after entering the dragon saliva pond. However, after the dragon saliva pond's marrow cleansing, they would be reborn. At least within the saint immortal realm, they wouldn't have to worry about encountering cultivation bottlenecks and shackles. It wasn't rare for saint immortal realm cultivators to be shackled in a small realm for millions of years. However, the dragon saliva pond could remove the shackles. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Li Haojie and the others. Su Fang's main goal was to absorb the dragon qi to help his dragon-subduing true body mature. As for the marrow-cleansing body and breaking through the shackles of cultivation, he didn't really care. They arrived at the front of the mountain range. There were already more than 10 cultivators waiting here. The 3 celestial venerables from World Palace were in the lead. Behind them stood more than 10 cultivators who were preparing to enter the dragon saliva pond. Other than Ling Yu and the other peerless geniuses who were ranked in the top 10 of the Heaven Ascension Conference, Feng Ling, Tua Yu, Jun Moyan, and the others were also there. Feng Ling was the #1 disciple of World Palace. In this Heaven Ascension Conference, he disdained to snatch other people's star lanterns. Otherwise, it would be easy for him to enter the top 10. Tua Yu's strength was also very extraordinary. If he didn't target Su Fang and let Su Fang snatch all his star lanterns, he would also be qualified to enter the top 10. Next, they would go to Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect to participate in the Tao Disciple competition. Feng Ling and Tua Yu would definitely be the main force. It wasn't strange for World Palace to let the 2 enter the dragon saliva pond. No one was dissatisfied. However, Jun Moyan's results in the Heaven Ascension Conference were barely within the top 100. He actually appeared here, which made Su Fang feel very strange. Su Fang transmitted his essence spirit to Jun Moyan. Brother Jun, congratulations. Jun Moyan replied with a smile. Isn't this because of Brother Su? Back then, I tried my best to persuade the higher-ups to let Brother Su enter the dragon saliva pond. This is Brother Jun's luck. What does it have to do with me? Su Fang smiled faintly. Seeing that everyone was present, Venerable White said in a deep voice, The dragon saliva pond is about to open. Everyone, get ready. Everyone's spirits were roused. They looked at the dragon's head. Their eyes flickered with anticipation. The 3 World Palace venerable immortals formed complicated seals at the same time. They formed a Xian Guang and landed on the dragon's head. Layers of seals were removed. A distorted spirit formation portal appeared at the dragon's mouth. The dragon saliva pond was built inside the divine dragon's corpse. The entire mountain range was a huge spirit formation seal. Only this spirit formation portal could enter. Su Fang, you go first. Venerable White nodded at Su Fang. Gazes filled with envy were all focused on Su Fang. The first person to enter the dragon's saliva pond to cleanse his marrow would naturally have a much better effect than the people behind. However, no one was jealous. Su Fang's stunning talent made the other geniuses unable to have any thoughts of jealousy, including Feng Ling and Tuoyu. Then, Venerable White reminded a few more words. Remember, the dragon's saliva pond is not only an opportunity but also a test. Absorb as much as you can. Don't force it. If you force it, it might backfire. You might even be devoured by the dragon chi and bring great harm to yourself. Thank you for the reminder, Venerable White. Su Fang clasped his fists and thanked him. He was about to fly towards the spirit formation portal. At this moment, the Great Perfection Stage ability suddenly sensed that there were more than a dozen powerful auras flying towards them. And among them, there were two auras that Su Fang felt were extremely familiar. There are actually familiar people in the World Palace? Su Fang was not surprised. He slightly used the life shrinking technique. Unexpectedly, familiar Dao runes immediately flashed through his mind. Within the Dao runes, he could vaguely see two figures. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. Feng Wuzi. He did not expect to meet Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi in the World Palace. It was truly a small world. _our download address. Mobile reading, bibliography. Chapter 15:15. There were more than 10 cultivators with them. The leader was a Immortal Highness on the same level as Ji Hong Immortal Highness. He was also an authority of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect. The others were the same as Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi. They were all at the peak of the 9 Dao Sacred Immortal Realm. A moment later, the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect came into sight. The authorities of the World Palace were shocked. They quickly went up to greet them. Greetings, Chi Sword Immortal Highness, and the exceptional geniuses of the sect. The 3 authorities of the World Palace were respectful to the people of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect. They were also uneasy as they guessed their intentions. Rise. The leading Immortal Venerable said in a majestic voice. The man looked to be in his 50s. He had sharp eyes and sharp eyebrows. His aura was vague. Is he the Chi Sword Immortal Highness, Feng Wuzi's master, the expert of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect that Enai Xia Immortal Highness mentioned before? Su Fang sensed the Chi Sword Immortal Highness with his perfect mastery ability. The Chi Sword Immortal Highness' seemingly vague aura contained a strong dragon aura and sharp sword intent. He was a sword cultivator who practiced the martial arts of the dragon tribe. Judging from his aura, his strength was on the same level as Ji Hong Immortal Highness, but he did not feel as mysterious as Ji Hong Immortal Highness. This is going to be troublesome, Su Fang frowned. However, Su Fang was not too worried. His chief master was in the World Palace. He was not afraid of Feng Wuzi's revenge. Even if his chief master was unwilling to do anything, Su Fang could easily escape with his current strength if he used an exceptional skill or the Xianming Lightning Scroll, and the help of a Immortal Highness like the Undead Ruler. The Chi Sword Immortal Highness said imperiously, I'll bring the disciples of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect into the Dragon's Saliva Pond to cleanse their marrow. Those of the World Palace back off. What? The authorities of the World Palace and the geniuses who were about to enter the Dragon's Saliva Pond were startled. They felt chills running down their spines as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on them. Their hearts were burning with fury. Venerable White braced himself and said, Lord Chi Sword, the geniuses from World Palace who are preparing to participate in the Taoist competition are preparing to enter the Dragon's Saliva Pool. Chi Sword Immortal Venerable said indifferently, It won't be too late for World Palace's geniuses to enter the Dragon Saliva Pool after Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect's disciples cleanse their marrow. After 1,000,000 years of accumulation, the dragon's saliva pond's marrow-cleansing power was barely enough for a dozen people. When Heaven's Mandate Haotsang sect's disciples entered the dragon's saliva pool, they wouldn't even leave any leftovers for World Palace. The tyrannical side of the Heaven's Mandate Bright Azure sect was on full display at this moment. While the other lords were still hesitating, Chi Sword coldly said, "So? Does World Palace dare to disobey my order? Could it be that World Palace wants to break away from Heaven's Mandate Haotsang sect and establish their own sect?" "World Palace doesn't dare." The three big shots of World Palace trembled. They could only swallow their anger and retreat to the side. At the same time, they ordered the World Palace cultivators who were preparing to enter the dragon's saliva pond to retreat. Feng Ling and the other World Palace disciples were filled with anger, but they had to swallow their anger. Daring to offend Chi Sword Immortal Sovereign would not only bring trouble to themselves, but also to World Palace. Even the aloof and arrogant Feng Ling knew that he couldn't disobey and had to retreat. Only one person didn't retreat. He coldly stared at the people from Heaven's Mandate Haotsang sect. Why aren't you scramming?" Heavenly Lord Xian Shu coldly shouted at Su Fang, who didn't move. The next moment, Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi both recognized Su Fang and exclaimed at the same time, "It's you, Su Fang!" "That's right, it's me, Su Fang." Su Fang smiled faintly as a rune appeared in his right palm. This rune was given to him by Ji Hong Immortal Sovereign. Not only did it seal one of Ji Hong Immortal Sovereign's divine power attacks, but it could also allow Ji Hong Immortal Sovereign to sense it and rush over in time. "Su Fang, there's a path to heaven, but you don't take it. You're hiding in that barren celestial realm, and I can't do anything to you for now. How dare you come to Heaven's Mandate Haotsang sect's territory? I'll skin you alive." Heavenly Lord Xian Shu laughed maniacally and charged at Su Fang. In that celestial realm, Heavenly Lord Xian Shu had been severely injured by Su Fang's Xianming Thunder Seal. Then, Su Fang's second primordial spirit had searched his soul, causing his primordial spirit to be severely injured. Fortunately, Heavenly Lord Xian Shu had left a clone, which saved his life. However, because he had forcefully used a forbidden art and his primordial spirit was severely injured, Heavenly Lord Xian Shu's cultivation level had dropped from the peak of the 9th Dao realm. After all these years, Heavenly Lord Xian Shu had done everything he could to recover to the normal state of a 9th Dao realm Saint Immortal. This time, it was Feng Wuzi who begged Chi Sword Immortal Venerable to bring him to the Dragon's Saliva Pond in World Palace to recover to his peak state. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu hated Su Fang so much. Now that he saw Su Fang, he was instantly filled with hatred and wanted to skin Su Fang alive. "Kneel down before me." Lian Shan Qing Tian equals N_1. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu shouted coldly and formed a Dharma seal. The power of heaven and earth quickly condensed and formed a giant mountain that was thousands of feet tall. It carried a terrifying aura and pressed down on Su Fang. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu also hated Su Fang so much that he used his most powerful divine power right from the start. Swish! Su Fang activated his sword pill and traveled through the void to reach Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. The giant mountain formed by Heavenly Lord Xian Shu's divine power hit the ground and shook the earth. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu was caught off guard and hurriedly formed a seal. How could Su Fang give him a chance to attack? He directly used his divine power and punched Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. Poof! Like a broken sack, Lord of Heaven Xian Shu's body was sent flying. After flying for dozens of miles, Heavenly Lord Xian Shu barely managed to stabilize himself. He spat out blood and many of his bones and meridians were shattered by Su Fang's violent punch. His internal organs were also severely injured. "You have become so powerful." Heavenly Lord Xian Shu's eyes were filled with disbelief. In the past, Su Fang was like an ant in Heavenly Lord Xian Shu's eyes. He could easily kill him with one finger. But now, the ant in the past had grown to such a powerful level. He didn't even use any divine power or Tao artifact, but he was able to severely injure Heavenly Lord Xian Shu. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi were extremely surprised and shocked by such a huge change. Even Qi Sword Immortal Venerable raised his eyebrows and a glint flashed in his eyes. Feng Wuzi recovered from his shock and shouted angrily at the head of World Palace, "This person is my enemy. How dare World Palace allow him to stay? Are you secretly betraying Heaven's mandate?" Haotsong sect? White Immortal hurriedly explained, "Su Fang is the champion of this Heaven Ascending Conference. World Palace doesn't know you have a grudge against him." Feng Wuzi said in surprise, "Champion of the Heaven Ascending Conference? He is indeed extraordinary. But no matter how talented he is, he will die if he dares to go against Tianming Haotsong sect. Why don't you kill him?" Su Fang sneered, "You are just a special disciple, but you keep saying that you will never leave Tianming Haotsong sect, as if you can represent the entire Tianming Haotsong sect. Other than relying on your sect's power and being arrogant, what else can you do, Feng Wuzi?" White Immortal Venerable smiled bitterly. He naturally wouldn't attack Su Fang. Very good. It seems World Palace is indeed disloyal. Can't I take him down if World Palace doesn't attack? Junior brothers, help me take him down. Be careful. Not only does he have peerless experts under him, but his abilities and Tao artifacts are also extraordinary, Feng Wuzi said coldly. The dozen or so Tianming Haotsong sect disciples beside Feng Wuzi were all special disciples. Their cultivation had all reached the peak of the 9th Tao Saint realm. They came to World Palace this time to use the Dragon Saliva Pond's purification power to break through to the Immortal Venerable realm in one fell swoop and prepare for the upcoming Tianming Haotsong sect Tao disciple competition. Any one of these people would be a peerless expert in any immortal realm. Their strength was extraordinary. Under Feng Wuzi's command, the dozen or so special disciples showed disdain. Then, they all unleashed their auras and charged toward Su Fang. Feng Wuzi also unleashed a burst of sword qi that condensed into a giant Xian Guang sword. It slashed toward Su Fang with a terrifying aura that could split the sky. Facing such a terrifying attack, even an ordinary immortal venerable would have to deal with it with all their strength. Qi, qi, qi. Su Fang repeatedly activated his sword pill and tore through the terrifying shackles around him. He shuttled through the void time and time again, dodging the fierce Tao attacks and charging into the dozen or so Tianming Haotsong sect disciples. His speed was so fast that Feng Wuzi and the others couldn't lock onto his aura at all. Su Fang closed in on them and had to engage in close combat with Su Fang. Boom, boom, boom. After activating the formless golden dipper body, Su Fang's fists were like Tao artifacts. They rained down on the Tianming Haotsong sect disciples with an indestructible aura. 3 of the special disciples were injured immediately. Retreat, don't engage in close combat with him. Increase the distance and form a sword formation to defeat him. With Su Fang's speed and physical strength, he couldn't gain any advantage in close combat. After Feng Wuzi's angry roar, the Tianming Haotsong sect's special disciples quickly retreated. How can I let you do as you wish? Su Fang sneered. Using the sword pill's teleportation ability, he entangled Feng Wuzi and the other special disciples, not giving them a chance to use their Tao abilities from afar. In an instant, the dozen or so special disciples of Tianming Haotsong sect were being chased around by Su Fang alone. This is his true strength? The powerhouses of World Palace, as well as the other upper echelons and disciples, were shaken to the core. This ant is quite extraordinary. However, how can I tolerate your arrogance in front of me? Qi Sword Immortal Venerable's deep eyes flashed with a sharp sword intent. He raised his right hand and pointed at Su Fang. In an instant, Strands of extremely sharp and fine sword essence converged into a sword essence wave that surged towards Su Fang from all directions. Su Fang sensed that the surrounding space had turned into a world of swords. There were layers of fine and sharp sword intent everywhere in the space, forming an astonishing world shackle. Even if he activated the sword pill to the extreme, it was difficult to tear the shackles apart. Just as Su Fang was about to take out the Xianming lightning seal and prepare to launch a fierce counterattack, a thunderous roar suddenly sounded. "Qi sword, you're an immortal venerable, but you attacked my disciple. Do you have any shame?" Before he finished speaking, the Ji Hong immortal venerable stepped out of the void. =R download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 15-16. Would this cheap master of mine really not hesitate to clash with the big shot of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect for me? When the Qi sword immortal venerate attacked, Su Fang activated the rune talisman and transmitted his soul to the Ji Hong immortal venerate. Su Fang originally thought that the Ji Hong immortal venerate might not really appear. Clashing with a peerless immortal venerate of the same level for the sake of his disciple was clearly an extremely unwise move. However, not only did the Ji Hong immortal venerate come, but he also seemed to be aggressively denouncing the Qi sword immortal venerate. This made Su Fang very surprised. "You dare to shackle this sovereign's disciple? Qi sword, you sure have guts." The Ji Hong immortal venerate raised his white eyebrows in anger. He quickly formed a seal and launched a peculiar Xian Guang vortex. The Xian Guang vortex constantly changed colors of green, red, gold, and black. It carried the divine might of the cycle of the 4 seasons and the evolution of time. This Xian Guang vortex swept up the Qi sword immortal venerate's sword intent world that enveloped Su Fang. It exploded with a shocking power of the cycle of time. The sword intent world instantly shattered layer by layer and vanished without a trace. What a powerful heavenly Tao divine might! It was the first time Su Fang saw the Ji Hong immortal venerate attack. He didn't expect this cheap master of his to actually possess such a powerful and peculiar divine ability. He couldn't help but be shocked. Luo Yi exclaimed from the blood jade in the depths of his body, "Huh? The Ji Hong immortal venerate actually cultivates the path of time reincarnation. It's impossible for such a supreme great Tao to appear in the great world." Path of time reincarnation? The path of time reincarnation is also a type of supreme heavenly Tao. When cultivated to the extreme, one can activate the power of time reincarnation. It can even make time stop and flow in reverse. Time stop and flow in reverse? Time was gone and could not be returned. No one could stop it for even a moment, let alone reverse it. It was the first time Su Fang had heard of the path of time reincarnation. It could control the power of time reincarnation and make time stop or flow in reverse. What kind of heaven-defying divine ability was this? Compared to Su Fang's heavenly secret life shrinking technique, it was not inferior at all. The Samsara Tao of time is the most mysterious and formidable supreme grand Tao in the myriad of worlds. I never expected that immortal exalt Ji Hong had actually cultivated such a grand Tao. However, the Ji Hong immortal exalt has only stepped into the Tao for a short period of time, and he's only capable of utilizing the energy of the samsara of the 4 seasons. He's still very far away from the height of being able to make time stop or flow backward. Isn't that amazing? Su Fang smiled bitterly. In Law's eyes, even a peak immortal venerable was nothing. At this moment, the Qi sword immortal exalt spoke coldly. "Ji Hong, you've never taken in a disciple in your entire life. How can this kid be your disciple?" The Ji Hong immortal exalt said proudly, "I've never taken a disciple, and that's because there aren't any geniuses that can enter my eyes." This time, during the World Palace's Heavenly Ascension Assembly, this sovereign's discerning eyes discovered this exceptional genius, and only then did I accept him as my disciple. What's wrong? Do I need your permission to take in a disciple? The immortal exalted Ji Hong actually took Su Fang as his disciple? Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi were extremely surprised, and their hearts suddenly sank. Like his name, the Ji Hong immortal exalt was like a lone swan in the heavens mandate Hao Tsang sect. He was unsociable and liked to be alone. However, the Ji Hong immortal exalt cultivated the powerful and strange samsara of the four seasons. His strength was also extremely powerful among the giants of the heavens mandate Hao Tsang sect. If Su Fang became the Ji Hong immortal exalt's disciple, wouldn't he be unable to take revenge for his past enmity? Feng Wuzi hurriedly spoke, Lord Ji Hong immortal exalt, Su Fang once defied the heavens mandate Hao Tsang sect's might and killed the sect's cultivators. You must not take him as your disciple. How dare a junior like you interfere in this sovereign's matters? A divine light suddenly shot out from the Ji Hong immortal exalt's eyes and shot towards Feng Wuzi. Ji Hong, don't you dare hurt my disciple. The Qi sword immortal exalt shot out a beam of sword Qi Xian Guang and blocked in front of Feng Wuzi. Poof! The light from the Ji Hong immortal exalt's eyes landed on the sword Qi, and the samsara of the four seasons quickly dissolved the sword Qi Xian Guang. Just a beam of light from the Qi sword immortal exalt was so powerful. If it hit Feng Wuzi, it would at least consume 1,000 years of his lifespan. Sword intent surged in the Qi sword immortal exalt's eyes, and he said coldly, Ji Hong, are you willing to fall out with this sovereign for a disciple? The Ji Hong immortal exalt raised his white brows and said extremely rudely, it wasn't easy for this sovereign to find a disciple that I'm satisfied with. If anyone dares to touch him, don't blame me for falling out with you. Strange, why is this cheap master of mine so protective of me? Su Fang's Tao heart that was as hard as iron also had a trace of warmth after being protected. At the same time, he was also puzzled. In a world where the strong preyed on the weak, not to mention disciples, even parents, brothers, and spouses would not hesitate to sacrifice for their own interests. Su Fang was naturally puzzled by the sudden appearance of such a master, who was also so protective of him _R. Moreover, Su Fang's life-shrinking technique had already been cultivated to an extremely high level, and he could clearly sense anyone that had hostility or killing intent towards him. Su Fang did not sense any ill intent from the Ji Hong immortal exalt. Fine, I don't want to have any dispute with you for a junior. Feng Wuzi, enter the dragon's saliva pool. The Qi sword immortal exalt snorted, and he actually seemed to be extremely fearful of the Ji Hong immortal exalt. The Ji Hong immortal exalt roared, Su Fang obtained first place in the Heaven Ascension Conference, so he should be the first to enter the dragon's saliva pool. Who is your disciple to dare forcefully seize his fortuitous encounter? The Qi sword immortal exalt raised his sword brows. Feng Wuzi is about to participate in the competition for the position of Tao disciple. After cleansing his marrow in the dragon's saliva pool, he might step into the immortal exalt stage and have a chance of becoming a Tao disciple of a sect. Your disciple is only at the 6 paths of the saint immortal realm. The dragon's saliva pool is of no use to him. The Ji Hong immortal exalt chuckled. A trash of a disciple like you wants to become a Tao disciple of the heavens mandate Hao Tsang sect? Even if my disciple doesn't enter the dragon's saliva pool, he can still shine in the Tao disciple competition and become a noble Tao disciple. Why are you giving such a fortuitous encounter to your trash of a disciple? The Qi sword immortal exalt shouted in a deep voice, Ji Hong, are you sincerely going against me? The Ji Hong immortal exalt's deep eyes flashed with a bright light, and he said coldly, Qi sword, I don't care if you're overbearing in front of others, but you can't bully my disciple. The atmosphere instantly became tense. Feng Wuzi suddenly cupped his fists towards the Ji Hong immortal exalt and said, Lord immortal exalt, I'm willing to challenge Su Fang to decide who will enter the dragon's saliva pool first. The Ji-Hong Immortal Exalt was stunned, and he said disdainfully, "You were defeated by Su Fong, yet you dare to challenge him now?" Feng Wuzi's face reddened, and he said resolutely, "That's because he borrowed the power of a Tao artifact, not because he's stronger than me." Looking at Su Fong, Feng Wuzi continued, "You and I will rely on our own strength, and we can't use Tao artifacts, and no one else can help. Do you dare to fight me?" "As you wish." Su Fong agreed very readily. Feng Wuzi's deep eyes exuded coldness. "Very well, if I accidentally kill you, don't blame me for being ruthless." Su Fong mocked back, "I'm just afraid that when you lose, you'll cry and make a fuss in front of your elders again." Killing intent flashed in Feng Wuzi's eyes. The Ji-Hong Immortal Exalt chuckled, but he didn't stop Su Fong. Although he didn't know Su Fong's exact strength, he knew that Su Fong had the strength to fight a Celestial Exalt even without a Tao artifact, and it would be easy for him to crush Feng Wuzi. The powerhouses of World Palace and the other geniuses started to worry for Su Fong. This Feng Wuzi thinks that Su Fong's strength relies on a Tao artifact, and he actually dares to challenge Su Fong. He's overestimating himself. Li Haojie sneered disdainfully. The Lord of Five Poisons also chuckled. There will always be some people who won't cry until they see the coffin. Su Fong and Feng Wuzi arrived at the top of the inner void, standing 5 kilometers away from each other. "Su Fong, I only need one attack to kill you," Feng Wuzi shouted coldly, full of disdain. "Qi." After Feng Wuzi formed a seal, a surge of sword qi rose into the sky, and a terrifying aura that could tear the sky apart erupted. In the next moment, the sword intent quickly condensed into a 300-meter-long Xian Guang sword that slashed down at Su Fong. It was as if it had condensed the will of the heavenly Tao and could cut everything apart. It gave people the feeling that this sword was going to cut the entire inner void of World Palace into 2 halves. The Qi Sword Immortal Exalt said proudly, "Ji-Hong, do you think my disciple is qualified to win the Tao disciple battle? Feng Wuzi is indeed extraordinary. No wonder the Qi Sword thinks highly of him." The Ji-Hong Immortal Exalt's eyes flashed, revealing a hint of worry. "Dragon Subduing True Body. Formless Golden Dipper Body. Original Form." In an instant, Su Fong activated his Dragon Subduing True Body and Formless Golden Dipper Body, transforming into a dragon man with golden scales. The power of the divine dragon that burst out shattered the sword intent that enveloped the space. At the same time, Su Fong also activated his original form, fusing the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda with his physical body. More than 300,000 cultivators and slave masters added their power to the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, and then used the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda to explode their power to Su Fong's physical body. Qi. In his original form, Su Fong struck out with the Xianwang Tyrant Dragon Claw. A 300-meter-long terrifying claw mark that seemed to exist with a terrifying aura that could tear the world apart collided with Feng Wuzi's divine ability giant sword. Clang! There was the sound of metal colliding. The divine ability giant sword was shattered by the claw mark. The earth-shattering divine ability was like paper under the claw mark. 30% of the claw mark was consumed, but its power was still unparalleled as it fiercely fell toward Feng Wuzi. Under the claw mark, Feng Wuzi, who was awe-inspiring just now, was now as small as a weak chicken. Oh no! The Qi Sword Immortal Venerable struck out with a Xian Guang. After colliding with the claw mark, it shattered the claw mark, allowing Feng Wuzi to escape a calamity. Qi Sword, the standard of your disciple isn't that high. He can't even withstand a single blow from my disciple. The Ji-Hong Immortal Venerable laughed loudly. Useless thing. The Qi Sword Immortal Venerable snorted coldly and glanced at Feng Wuzi fiercely. Feng Wuzi was very ashamed and his face flushed red. Feng Ling and Tuoyu were deeply shocked. Only now did they understand that Su Fong had hidden his strength when he fought with them earlier. Su Fang smiled disdainfully and flew toward the spirit formation door that entered the dragon's saliva pool. =R download address. Mobile reading. Bibliographic review. Chapter 15-17. Whoosh. As soon as Su Fang stepped into the portal, a spatial distortion suddenly swept over and Su Fang disappeared without a trace. He was sucked into the spatial formation within the spirit formation gate. Bang! In an instant, Su Fang felt the shackles on his body return to normal. He arrived in a huge, empty cave. The cave had obvious traces of creation. It was obvious that the peerless experts of World Palace had used their supreme abilities to create such an internal void inside the divine dragon's corpse. The cave was filled with astonishing dragon chi and life essence, causing the dragon taming wood in Su Fang's body to tremble violently. It was about to rush out of his body. In the center of the cave there was a pond that was 100 feet wide. The pond was not filled with water, but with mist that had been gathered by the formation. The mist was condensed from dense green immortal light. At the bottom of the pond, there was a green liquid that was more than 3 feet deep. It emitted a majestic life force. This is the dragon's saliva pond? Su Fang jumped into the pond without hesitation. After sensing it, Su Fang was pleasantly surprised. This is mainly dragon chi. At the same time, it also gathers the natural spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It is pure and abundant, containing astonishing marrow cleansing power. If I cultivate here, I will definitely benefit greatly. It really has the ability to help cultivators break through the bottleneck of cultivation. This marrow cleansing power can transform my dragon taming true body and even reach a mature state in one go. Su Fang immediately sat cross-legged in the pond and activated his dragon taming true body. Almost without needing to deliberately activate it, the dragon taming true body roared and crazily devoured the surrounding pond water. =N_R. The pond water boiled and rolled. The rich marrow cleansing power poured into Su Fang's body and was absorbed by the dragon taming wood. The dragon taming wood seemed to have swallowed a great tonic as it grew in his body. At this time, Su Fang had already cultivated his dragon taming true body to a complete state. The dragon taming wood's blood threads covered every part of his body. Su Fang had devoured so much power of marrow cleansing mainly because it contained the true aura of the mystical dragon. It caused the blood threads of the taming dragon wood to extend deep into his body. The blood threads merged perfectly with his flesh and meridians. They formed a structure within Su Fang's body, just like the Tao Palace of heaven and earth. Not only was the dragon subduing true body devouring the cleansing power in the pond, but the world seed was also absorbing it. The dragon bird that Su Fang had placed in the palace of heaven and earth was also wantonly devouring the power of marrow cleansing. The dragon saliva pond's marrow cleansing power was mainly based on dragon chi, which was formed by gathering spirit chi from the array. The dragon bird contained the bloodline of the divine dragon, so dragon chi was naturally of great help to its growth. Under such crazy devouring, the pool water level dropped bit by bit. According to this speed, the dragon subduing true body will only reach saturation after absorbing at least half of the marrow cleansing power in the dragon's saliva pond. I'm only afraid that the power of marrow cleansing won't be enough for me to devour, so why would I be afraid of being devoured by him? Sensing the drastic changes in his body, Su Fang made a deduction. This speed is too slow. Why don't I use the yellow spring blood sea to devour and merge? This way, not only will the speed be faster, but the fusion of the marrow cleansing power and the dragon's subduing true body will also be more perfect. Thinking of this, Su Fang was about to collapse his body and transform into the yellow spring blood sea. At this moment, a shackle filled with a sacred aura shrouded the cave. Then, a voice that seemed to come from ancient times descended with a terrifying willpower. Human cultivator, mystical dragon. This fallen mystical dragon still has a remnant willpower. Su Fang was shocked. The Dragon Clan was the most mysterious and powerful existence. Although this mystical dragon had fallen, its body was not truly dead. It was not strange for its remnant willpower to remain. What made Su Fong wary was that the mystical dragon's willpower contained killing intent for some reason. You killed a descendant of the mystical dragon clan and dared to enter my body and devour my dragon chi. You really have guts. The mystical dragon's majestic voice sounded again. Lord Mystical Dragon, you must have misunderstood. I have never seen a mystical dragon in my life. How could I kill your descendant? Su Fong suddenly thought of immortal Emperor Tianong. He had a bad feeling in his heart. When immortal Emperor Tianong was at the end of his road, he voluntarily offered the purple Qi Dharma spirit. At the same time, he stripped away the dragon Qi and Emperor Qi that he had obtained through his lifetime of cultivation to protect the heavenly Tao immortal world's long family. Su Fong suspected that immortal Emperor Tianong had another conspiracy at that time, but he could not figure out what it was. At this time, in the dragon's saliva pond, the mystical dragon's willpower suddenly spoke. Su Fong immediately thought of immortal Emperor Tianong. Before immortal Emperor Tianong died, he had most likely set a big trap for Su Fong. The mystical dragon's voice sounded majestically. Any cultivator with a dragon spirit is considered a descendant of the Dragon Clan. Before the Dragon Clan or human cultivators with a dragon spirit are killed, they will leave a mark on the enemy's body called the Curse of Dragon Death. Apart from the Dragon Clan, any human cultivator or divine ability would find it difficult to detect or erase the aura of the imprint. And you have a Curse of Dragon Death on your body. Do you still want to deny it? Curse of Dragon Death. Su Fong suddenly realized that it was indeed immortal Emperor Tianong's doing. The Curse of Dragon Death, even the divine life shrinking technique did not detect it. Such a magical power made Su Fong extremely shocked by the powerful magical power of the Dragon Clan. My Dragon Clan has an ancient oath. Any Dragon Clan member must kill an enemy with the Curse of Dragon Death at all costs. You actually broke into my body. You are really courting death. Ha ha. The mystical dragon's voice was full of murderous intent, echoing in the cave. Law spoke from the blood jade in the depths of his body. This mystical dragon calls himself a saint. Obviously, he is not an ordinary Dragon Clan member, but a peerless mystical dragon that has reached the demon saint level. The mystical dragon is the existence that stands at the top of the food chain. It is not comparable to an ordinary demon saint. When this mystical dragon was alive, it was at the same height as a peak immortal venerable. Demon saint? Su Fong thought of the Green Feather Emperor who went to the demon realm. If he became the legendary demon saint one day, his strength would definitely not be weaker than the mystical dragon at the demon saint level. Swoosh! The green clouds above the dragon's saliva pool rolled and surged, quickly condensing into a giant green dragon that was 100 feet long. After circling in the cave, the giant green dragon roared toward Su Fong with a terrifying aura. A mystical dragon that has been dead for tens of thousands of years is similar to a dead snake. How much divine power can it have left? How dare you treat me, Su Fong, as a weakling? Su Fong sneered and quickly formed a seal. His physical body immediately shattered and turned into the underworld blood sea state. It surged in all directions and occupied the entire cave. There were layers of seals blocking inside the mystical dragon's body. Even peerless experts like Ji Hong Immortal Venerable and Qi Sword Immortal Venerable could not sense what was happening inside. Therefore, Su Fong had no scruples. He used the underworld blood sea to fight the giant green dragon condensed by the mystical dragon's will. It's actually a demon race cultivator. The mystical dragons will spoke with a hint of surprise. The giant green dragon swung its tail, and its huge body swam out. It roared and charged into the blood sea. Sizzle! The blood sea swirled and formed an astonishing divine power of reincarnation. It released a powerful devouring and corrosive power, corroding the giant green dragon's body layer by layer. Then, it directly devoured and merged with the dragon-taming wood and world seed to absorb. The giant green dragon crazily bit and attacked, causing the underworld blood sea to surge. However, the underworld blood sea was still vast and roaring. No matter how hard the giant green dragon tried, it could not shake it. A quarter of an hour later, more than half of the huge cyan dragon was swallowed up. It could no longer maintain its form and collapsed with a loud bang. It once again turned into green immortal light and floated in the cave. Compared to before, the green immortal light had become much thinner. Even the liquid in the pool had been mostly devoured by the yellow spring blood sea. If not for Su Fang sealing the flame of life, the yellow spring's blood sea would be burning with terrifying flame of life. After devouring so much spiritual energy, the blood threads of the dragon taming wood floated and rolled in the sea of blood, and the dragon taming true body was undergoing an astonishing transformation. You're actually able to display such a powerful demon race divine ability. Human, you've truly shocked this saint. However, you're only a mere saint immortal realm cultivator, and you're within this saint's body. Let me see how great of a wave you can cause. It's better for you to obediently submit to me. Swish, swish. Auras surged from all directions. They were invisible to the naked eye, but the primordial spirit could see them clearly. Those were the shadows of dragons formed by wills. They roared ferociously and released terrifying wills. They formed shackles that suppressed the yellow spring blood sea that Su Fang had turned into, causing it to shrink. Human, not only do you have a perfected body, but you also have abundant yang qi. You've also cultivated the demon race divine abilities and the dragon race cultivation technique. If I devour your primordial spirit and take over your body, I'll be able to use the power of the changes in the world to revive myself. Ha ha ha! The wills of the dragons laughed smugly and formed a will's pressure that hit Su Fang's primordial spirit like wave. So you've awakened your evil consciousness with the help of the changes in the world, and your body is heavily sealed. It can't break through the seals, so you want to take over the body of a human cultivator and revive yourself. Su Fang sneered disdainfully. Whoosh! The yellow spring's blood sea quickly shrank and condensed back into the normal state of the body. The wills of the dragons pounced on Su Fang. Su Fang didn't hesitate to activate the life-shrinking art. If I want to live, the heavens can't take it away. If I want to live, the heavens can't live without me. Life-shrinking art. Su Fang used his primordial spirit to chant the essence of the great Tao of destiny. Tao runes surged out of his divine aperture and turned into ethereal Tao runes that swept toward the wills of the dragons. Swish, swish. The life-shrinking art restrained fate and faith. Any wills would be crushed. It was the fatal nemesis of the wills of the dragons. The Tao runes wrapped around the wills of the dragons and burned them into nothingness. Ah! What kind of divine ability is this? It can burn my wills. The voice of the wills of the dragons was filled with shock and fear. The shadows retreated outside the cave. =R download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1518. Do you think that I, Su Fang, will let you go? Su Fang smiled domineeringly. He activated the life-shrinking technique and sensed the source of the divine dragon's will. It was the divine aperture of the divine dragon's corpse. There was a remnant consciousness there. The thunder of destiny sounded silently as Su Fang chanted the Tao text of destiny. Although the thunder was hard to hear with the ears, one's primordial spirit could sense it clearly. The explosion could destroy all karma of destiny. Damn it, what kind of thunder technique is this? How can there be such a terrifying supreme thunder technique in the great world? Stop, if you kill me, the dragon saliva pond will collapse. Under the terrifying might of the lightning of destiny, the divine dragon, which had been incomparably arrogant just a moment ago, was now extremely terrified. It was like a frightened reptile. If the dragon's saliva pond collapses, it will definitely attract the attention of the World Palace's higher-ups and bring unnecessary trouble. Su Fong thought for a while, and stopped activating the Thunder of Destiny. However, the remnant consciousness of the Divine Dragon has been affected by the evil force of the changes in heaven and earth. Maybe it will break the seal one day and bring disaster to the great world. A revived undead lord had devoured several empires in just a few months. If a divine dragon was revived, what kind of disaster would it bring to the great world? Su Fong naturally wouldn't leave this trouble behind. He immediately separated a young immortal and entered the divine dragon's divine aperture. If you don't want to be turned into ashes by my divine ability, I advise you to open up your consciousness and let me leave a mark on you, Su Fong's young immortal said majestically. I am a supreme existence, a proud divine dragon. How can I be shackled by an ant-like saint immortal cultivator like you? The divine dragon's remnant consciousness roared evilly. It seems that I can only destroy you to prevent you from harming the immortal Tao in the future. Su Fong's young immortal's voice was filled with killing intent. If it was the second primordial spirit, it wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. It would be easy to destroy a remnant consciousness. The destructive power of the Thunder of Destiny enveloped every corner of the divine dragon's divine aperture. It was only then that the remnant consciousness of the divine dragon panicked. It had no choice but to open up its consciousness and let Su Fong manipulate it. Su Fong used the lightning Dao rune of destiny Dao rune to condense a mark seed into the depths of Shenlong's consciousness. This way, Su Fong only needed a thought to completely obliterate Shenlong's consciousness. Recalling the young immortal, Su Fong returned to the dragon's saliva pool. After probing his body, Su Fong found that after devouring a large amount of dragon qi, the dragon's subduing true body was only a hair's breadth away from complete maturity. It was on the verge of a great transformation. He looked at the dragon's saliva pond again. There was still about half of the pool of water left, which was more than enough for the dragon's subduing true body. Whoosh! Su Fong transformed into the Yellow Springs Blood Sea and covered the pool. He used the Yellow Springs Blood Sea's astonishing devouring ability to devour and fuse with the power of marrow cleansing. At the same time, Su Fong also released the dragon bird. It stripped the fused dragon qi from the Yellow Springs Blood Sea and let it devour as much as it wanted. It also followed Su Fong and transformed as much as it wanted. Time flew by, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Outside the mountain range formed by the divine dragon's corpse, everyone's eyes were wide open as they paid attention to the spirit formation door that entered the divine dragon's body. Strange, the longest time to enter the dragon's saliva pool for marrow cleansing is only half a day. Why is Su Fong still not out after so long? World Palace's white immortal exalted was a bit worried for Su Fong. It wasn't like there hadn't been a case before. Cultivators who entered the dragon's saliva pool forcefully poured the power of marrow cleansing into their bodies regardless of the consequences. As a result, their bodies shattered and they died in the dragon's saliva pool. The Chi Sword Immortal Exalted coldly said, "He must have been too greedy and wanted to become a big fatty in one go. Perhaps he's already been devoured by the power of marrow cleansing and died in the dragon's saliva pool. How can my disciple be compared to ordinary cultivators? To be able to stay in the dragon's saliva pool for so long, it means that he grasped a rare opportunity. When he comes out, he will definitely undergo a great transformation," the Ji Hong Immortal Exalted mocked, but he was actually a bit worried for Su Fong. It's best if he dies from overeating. Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi both had the same thought. However, in front of the Ji Hong Immortal Exalted, they didn't dare to reveal their thoughts in the slightest. Another 2 days passed. This time, even the Ji Hong Immortal Exalted couldn't sit still anymore. He couldn't help but want to enter the mountain range to check on Su Fong's movements. Suddenly an extremely loud and clear cry came from the mountain range. This sound was very strange. It was like a dragon's roar, but also like a phoenix's cry. It actually penetrated the mountain range formed by the divine dragon and the obstruction of the layers of seals, and resounded through the entire void. Immediately after, a fiery light shot out from the mountain range. It was like a divine sun breaking through the sky, releasing a dazzling light that was extremely dazzling. A supreme divine power like the sun enveloped the entire area. What's going on? Everyone, including the two peerless experts, the Qi Sword Immortal Exalted and the Ji Hong Immortal Exalted, were extremely shocked. They didn't understand what had happened. Li Haojie, the Lord of Five Poisons, and the monk sensed the aura of the dragon bird from this divine power. They faintly understood that Su Fang's son had undergone another transformation. As for the reason for the transformation, other than the dragon Qi of the dragon saliva pond, what other reason could there be? The Lord of Five Poisons chuckled and transmitted his essence spirit to Li Haojie. That brat Su Fang wouldn't have devoured all the marrow-cleansing power in the dragon's saliva pond, right? Li Haojie replied. With his personality, he most likely would have done so. That's for the best. Otherwise, the people of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect wouldn't have obtained the marrow-cleansing power. The divine power of the sun and the fiery light gradually disappeared. Just when everyone thought that Su Fang was about to walk out of the dragon's saliva pond, another change occurred. A dragon's roar that was filled with holiness suddenly came from the mountain range. Then, a supreme divine dragon's might broke through the mountain range and enveloped the entire area. Under this divine power, the Ji Hong Immortal Exalted had no choice but to activate the divine power of time and reincarnation to resist. The other cultivators, including the powerhouses of World Palace, all trembled as they were strongly suppressed. Divine Dragon? Could it be that the Divine Dragon hasn't truly died and has been revived? The Qi Sword Immortal Exalted's eyes flashed with incomparable shock. The sword Qi and dragon Qi in his body surged wildly and gushed out of his body uncontrollably, turning into a white sword Qi dragon. This dragon formed by sword Qi and dragon Qi circled around the Qi Sword Immortal Exalted before lowering its head in the direction of the mountain range. It was actually submitting and worshipping. What in the world happened that even I was affected? The Qi Sword Immortal Exalted forcefully kept the Qi Dragon Sword Qi back into his body. His mind was buzzing from this change. As for the others, they had completely turned into ice sculptures. At this moment, in a cave in the mountain range, a 30-meter-long divine dragon, a real divine dragon and not the illusion of a divine power, circled in the cave. The scales on the divine dragon's body flashed with a faint green luster. The dragon claw grabbed lightly in the void, and the void shattered. As its eyes opened and closed, they flashed with a sharp light, causing the void to collapse layer by layer. As it circled, a supreme aura that roamed the void and looked down on the world, as well as a majestic and inviolable supreme divine power, arose spontaneously. In the center of the cave there was a huge creature. It was more than 60 meters long, with a dragon's body, a phoenix's tail, and a pair of wings. Its body was covered in 5 colored feathers, and it dragged a feather tail that was more than 10 meters long behind it. Its entire body emitted a shocking fiery aura, causing the void to distort from the heat. Divine Dragon, a human cultivator, has actually transformed into a real divine dragon. The divine dragon that only had a fragmented consciousness left said in a shocking voice in the cave. Su Fang's voice came from the divine dragon's body. Divine Dragon, the dragon subduing true body has matured. I actually transformed into a divine dragon. Ha ha ha, another true body had matured. Dragon subduing true body equals N_1. Just as Luo had expected, after the dragon subduing true body had matured, he could indeed transform into a divine dragon. Unlike the dragon man that was transformed by the dragon race's divine ability, Su Fang felt that not only had his physical body transformed into a divine dragon, but he had also become incomparably powerful. Just by entering the divine dragon state, he could fight against an immortal venerable like Qi sword immortal venerable. At the same time, Su Fang also felt that after transforming into a divine dragon, he also possessed the innate ability of a divine dragon. When he executed the divine ability of the dragon race, his power had increased by more than 10 times. Su Fang was confident that he could kill mid-level immortal venerables like Qi Sword Immortal Venerable and World Palace Master. However, Su Fang wasn't very confident about defeating Ji Hong Immortal Venerable. That cheap master of his made Su Fang feel that he was somewhat unfathomable. Not only that, the recovery ability of the dragon subduing true body was no different from a real divine dragon. There was no need to consume pills or spiritual items. With the recovery ability of the dragon subduing true body, as long as the golden core, divine aperture, and Tao Palace weren't damaged, the injuries to the physical body could be healed instantly. Su Fang quickly exited the divine dragon state. His qi was a little weak, his face was pale, and his body was drenched in sweat. After all, the dragon subduing true body had just matured. Su Fang maintained the divine dragon state and consumed a large amount of dragon qi. He could only maintain it for 10 breaths of time at most. He peeled off a young immortal and entered the Tao Palace to take a look. He saw that the world seed had undergone another transformation. The tender shoot that came out of the seed had become stronger. On the tender shoot there was a tender leaf that emitted a mysterious green light. It was the mature dragon subduing true body. The world seed's yin-yang world force and the divinity in the Tao Palace had become more profound. His entire physical body had undergone another transformation and reached a new height. Su Fang estimated that his physical body was now as strong as a peak supreme grade Tao artifact. Other than the contribution of the dragon's saliva pool, Su Fang had also used the great Tao of weapon refinement of Emperor Tianbao to temper his physical body. His physical body had undergone a transformation. The various true body abilities that were built on the foundation of a perfected physical body, as well as his natal Dharma treasure and ghosts, had all undergone a great transformation. Even the dragon bird had undergone a transformation. Its body had nearly doubled in size. Su Fang speculated that the sun god arrow released by the dragon bird could easily kill Fiend's supremacy Monsi instead of just severely injuring him. I didn't expect the dragon saliva pool to bring me such great benefits. Su Fang was naturally overjoyed that his strength had undergone a great transformation. Looking at the dragon saliva pool again, there was only 1/5 of it left. At most, it was enough for 2 or 3 people to cleanse their marrow. It's time to go out. Didn't Feng Wuzi want to use the dragon saliva pool to cleanse his marrow and break through to the immortal supremacy realm? I won't let him absorb even a trace of dragon qi. Su Fang raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a mocking smile, and then left the dragon saliva pool. =_our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1519. The mountain range formed by the divine dragon's corpse. The Xian Guang at the dragon's mouth flickered, and Su Fang's figure came out of the formation. He's out. He's finally out. It could be said that everyone had been waiting for the stars and the moon, and finally, Su Fang appeared. Whoosh! Su Fang flew over. The maturation of the dragon subduing true body had caused a huge commotion, and the dragonbird's transformation had also caused a commotion. Su Fang naturally did not want others to know what he had gained from the dragon's saliva pool, so he used the life-shrinking technique to conceal his dragon subduing true body. On the surface, there was not much change, and even the Ji Hong Celestial Exalt could not see through it. The Ji Hong Celestial Exalt asked, Su Fang, what happened just now? Why was there a dragon's roar and an extremely shocking divine dragon's aura? Su Fang said in surprise, Did something like that happen just now? I was in the dragon's saliva pool and knew nothing about it. The white celestial exalt of World Palace said, "It seems like the changes in heaven and earth have affected the fallen divine dragon. We need to reinforce the seal to prevent any mishap." Everyone no longer suspected him. The Ji-Hong celestial exalt continued to ask, "How's the harvest?" Su Fang shook his head and smiled bitterly. The Ji-Hong celestial exalt comforted him. "You're only at the 6 paths of the Saint Immortal Realm, and you have a perfect body, so the dragon saliva pool is not very useful to you. It's fine, I'll find a way to get you better resources than the dragon saliva pool when we reach the heavenly fate bright azure sect." Absorbing the dragon saliva pond's marrow cleansing power also requires talent. Without such talent, it's useless to force yourself. You're already lucky that you haven't been devoured by the marrow cleansing power. The Qi Sword Immortal Venerable sneered coldly. Then, he said to Feng Wuxi, "It's your turn. You must use the dragon saliva pool's power of purification to break through the peak of the 9 paths of the Saint Immortal Realm and become a celestial exalt." Disciples' comprehension of heaven and earth, nature, and the Grand Tao has reached a high enough level. With the power of the dragon saliva pond's purification, it'll be easy for me to advance to the immortal venerable realm. In this way, disciple will definitely be able to display my talent in the Tao disciple competition and win glory for master. Feng Wuxi said confidently as he cupped his fists in the direction of the Qi Sword Immortal Venerate. Then, he looked at Su Fang and smiled coldly. "When I break through in one go, I'll definitely compete with you again." Su Fang replied indifferently, "Then I'll have to congratulate you in advance." Feng Wuxi smiled smugly and headed straight for the spirit formation door. Su Fang used his primordial spirit to transmit an order to the mountain range: "Don't let this person absorb even a trace of the power of marrow cleansing." The dragon god immediately replied, "The dragon saliva pool is in my body. I only need to control it secretly to ensure that this person returns empty-handed." A day passed. Feng Wuxi still didn't come out. The Qi Sword Immortal Venerate revealed a gratified expression. "Not bad, Feng Wuxi is indeed worthy of being my proud disciple. He actually absorbed the power of marrow cleansing for such a long time. It seems that he has a chance of breaking through to the immortal venerate realm in one go." Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and the other disciples of the Heavenly Mandate, Haotsong sect, also praised him. 3 days later. Feng Wuxi still didn't come out. Only then did the Qi Sword Immortal Venerate realize that something was wrong. There was no longer a trace of a smile on his face. After 5 days, Feng Wuxi finally passed through the spirit formation door and came out. His face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with anger and doubt. The Qi Sword Immortal Venerate asked in a deep voice, "Feng Wuxi, what happened?" "Only a small portion of the power of marrow cleansing is left in the dragon saliva pool." Feng Wuxi looked hatefully at Su Fang. He actually swallowed more than half of the power of marrow cleansing in the dragon saliva pool alone? The Qi Sword Immortal Venerate and the others found it unbelievable. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. "There's no rule that says I'm not allowed to absorb so much, right?" The power of marrow cleansing in the dragon saliva pool contained an astonishing amount of dragon qi and natural spirit qi of heaven and earth. Cultivators below the Saint Immortal Realm would not be able to withstand absorbing even a little, and their bodies would explode. Even cultivators at the peak of the 9 Tao Saint Immortal Realm did not dare to absorb too much. Moreover, the power of marrow cleansing in the dragon saliva pool would lose its effect once it left the dragon saliva pool. It was similar to ordinary spirit liquid, and could not be brought out of the dragon saliva pool. Therefore, Su Fang could only absorb more than half of the power of marrow cleansing in the dragon saliva pool. How could such a terrifying absorption ability not be shocking? The Qi Sword Immortal Venerate's eyes shone with divine light as he swept it over Feng Wuxi. Seeing that Feng Wuxi had not changed at all, The Chi Sword Immortal Venerate raised his eyebrows. Even if there's still a small portion of the dragon saliva pool left, it should be enough for you to cleanse your marrow. Why are there no changes to you? Things are very strange. No matter how I use all kinds of methods, I am unable to absorb the slightest bit of marrow cleansing power equals N_R. Feng Wuzi was very angry. He looked at Su Fang with suspicion in his deep eyes. You didn't even absorb a trace of the power of marrow cleansing? I rushed to the World Palace and did not hesitate to put down my old face to fight for the opportunity to become an immortal venerate for you. You actually missed it just like that. The Chi Sword Immortal Venerate shouted coldly as sword light shot out of his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to slap Feng Wuzi a few times. Everyone else also had a look of disbelief. Feng Wuzi trembled and said fearfully, "Disciple is stupid and has failed to live up to Master's efforts. Please punish me, Master." The Ji Hong Immortal Venerate was shocked and then ridiculed without restraint. Such trash wants to shine in the Tao Disciple competition? When the time comes, Chi Sword, your old face will be completely lost by him. Ha ha! The Chi Sword Immortal Venerate snorted and looked at Su Fang with suspicion. Su Fang said innocently, "Lord Chi Sword Immortal Venerate, could it be that you think I'm the one who caused trouble? If I had such ability, then it would really be heaven-defying. It's Feng Wuzi who is too useless. What does it have to do with me? I don't think you have that ability." After the Chi Sword Immortal Venerate sneered, he let Heavenly Lord Xian Shu enter the dragon's saliva pond. The World Palace geniuses were all furious that their fortuitous opportunities were forcefully snatched away. However, they could only be angry but did not dare to say anything. Su Fang sat down cross-legged in the distance with an indifferent look, but he was sneering in his heart. In less than half a day, Heavenly Lord Xian Shu walked out of the dragon's saliva pond. The result was the same as Feng Wuzi, unable to absorb a trace of marrow cleansing power. Then, the other heavenly mandate Haotsong sect disciples entered the dragon's saliva pond again. Without exception, it was as if the dragon's saliva pond had rejected them. They could only stare and use all their abilities, but they were unable to absorb the marrow cleansing power. Could it be that the previous change caused the marrow cleansing power of the dragon's saliva pond to be unable to be absorbed? Not only the Chi Sword Immortal Venerate, but the others also came to this conclusion. The Chi Sword Immortal Venerate personally entered the dragon's saliva pond and investigated. He found that the marrow cleansing power in the dragon's saliva pond was controlled by the divine dragon's will. Feng Wuzi and the others were naturally unable to absorb the marrow cleansing power. Even with the Chi Sword Immortal Venerate's strength, it was difficult for him to control the divine dragon's will. In the end, the Chi Sword Immortal Venerate led Feng Wuzi and the other heavenly mandate Haotsong sect disciples away angrily. This was equivalent to a wasted trip to World Palace. Before leaving, Feng Wuzi glared fiercely at Su Fang. His deep eyes flashed with cold, killing intent. Clearly, he would not let Su Fang off so easily. When he reached the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect, he would definitely take revenge. The Ji Hong Immortal Venerate also left the inner void of World Palace. The dragon's saliva pond could no longer be used. This made the powerhouses of World Palace feel heavy-hearted. World Palace had suffered a great loss this time. Just as they were about to leave with the geniuses, Li Haojie suddenly said, "This is a rare opportunity. I'm willing to try the dragon's saliva pond. Perhaps there will be a different result." The Lord of Five Poisons and the monk cupped their fists at the same time. "We're also willing to try equals, N_R. Just as the White Immortal Venerate was hesitating, Su Fang said, "Perhaps there's nothing wrong with the dragon's saliva pond. It's just that Feng Wuzi and the others have angered the divine dragon's will. Therefore, they are unable to absorb the marrow cleansing power. There's no harm in letting them try." The White Immortal Venerate glanced at Su Fang. His eyes flashed as he nodded in agreement. It's good to try, but don't force it. Li Haojie was the first to enter the dragon's saliva pond. When he came out half a day later, it was as if he had been baptized. It felt as if he had been reborn. He was originally at the first Tao Saint immortal realm. It would have taken him tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years to break through to the second Tao Saint immortal realm. Now, he was actually on the verge of breaking through. Moreover, within the Saint immortal realm, he would not encounter any shackles when he reached the peak of the Saint immortal realm. There's actually nothing wrong with the dragon's saliva pond. Everyone was not surprised. Then, their spirits were lifted, and their hearts were filled with anticipation. Next, the Lord of Five Poisons and the monk Shang De entered the dragon's saliva pond one after another. The result was the same as Li Haojie. Both of them successfully obtained the dragon's saliva pond's purification power. The Lord of Five Poisons, in particular, was on the verge of breaking through. After he walked out of the dragon's saliva pond, he immediately left the inner void and was brought to the dojo by a world palace higher up to undergo the 9 great tribulations. Since Li Haojie, the Lord of Five Poisons, and the monk's cultivation base were not very high, there was still a lot of dragon's saliva pond's purification power left after the 3 of them consumed it. Feng Ling and Ling Yu entered the dragon's saliva pond and went through a round of purification. Tua Yu, the bald cultivator, and the others were not so lucky. The dragon's saliva pond's purification power had been exhausted. If they wanted to use it again, they would have to wait for 1,000,000 years. However, the World Palace's powerhouses decided to compensate the others accordingly. Although it was not as good as the dragon's saliva pond, it was not far off. Such an unbelievable matter baffled everyone. Some of the World Palace's powerhouses began to suspect Su Fang. However, no one asked for a rebuff and went to investigate. After coming out of the dragon's saliva pond, Su Fang immediately began to break through to the peak of the 6 Paths Saint immortal realm. As it turned out, Su Fang's cultivation base was on the verge of breaking through to the 7 Dao stage in just 10 years after he had broken through to the 6th Dao stage of the Saint's celestial stage after devouring the marrow-cleansing energy in the dragon's saliva pool and the divine origin pill given to him by the Ji Hong celestial venerable. The Ji Hong immortal supremacy originally wanted to bring Su Fang to the heavenly fate bright firmament sect. The World Palace also wanted to bring Feng Ling, Tua Yu, and the others to participate in the Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect's Taoist competition. When he heard that Su Fang was about to break through, the Ji Hong Immortal Supremacy immediately decided to wait for Su Fang to break through before leaving. The Taoist competition would be held more than 100 years later. There was no need to rush. Saint Immortal Realm, breaking through to the next level in 10 years. Everyone in the World Palace was shocked. For a Saint Immortal Realm cultivator to break through to the next level in 1,000,000 years was considered quite outstanding. Breaking through to the next level in 10 years could only be described as heaven-defying. Feng Ling, Tua Yu, and the other peerless geniuses all felt deeply defeated. Feng Ling and Tua Yu, who originally wanted to surpass Su Fang, completely gave up on that idea. =R download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1520. Who knew that not long after AP the Heavenly Mandate, Hao Tsang sect sent an order to the Ji Hong Celestial Supremacy, asking him to return to the sect immediately. It did not say what it was about, but it was very urgent. Obviously, something big had happened. The Ji Hong Celestial Supremacy had no choice but to return to the sect alone. In the true dragon world, Su Fang kept devouring divine essence pills in the state of the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. At the same time, the World Palace also sent Su Fang a large amount of spiritual items and resources. 3 years of preparation. On this day, Su Fang suddenly flew out of the true dragon world and arrived at a mountain deep in the World Palace that was filled with natural spiritual energy and world energy. This mountain peak was where one of the upper echelons of the World Palace lived and cultivated. When he saw that Su Fang was about to break through, he hurriedly ordered his disciples to leave and acted as a protector in the distance. As soon as Su Fang sat down cross-legged on the mountain, a burst of tribulation aura suddenly shot out from his body. The tribulation aura rose with a loud bang and then turned into burning flames. The familiar energy of ascension began to form an aura of impact again and again. The tribulation fire also quickly turned into burning flames. About 3 months later, the terrifying tribulation fire on Su Fang's body finally extinguished gradually. Su Fang began to devour divine essence pills. At this moment, his body had already started to transform. He stepped into the 7 Tao realm from the 6 Tao Saint Immortal realm, breaking through another level. In his divine aperture, Dantian, flesh, divine aperture, golden origin core, and even some meridians, there were Tao marks carved by the divine might of the laws of heaven and earth. There were a total of 7 Tao Saint Immortal realm. In the central celestial domain where experts were as common as clouds, a 7 Tao Saint Immortal realm expert was considered a peerless expert. Moreover, Su Fang was a 7 Tao Saint Immortal realm cultivator who was extraordinary. Ascending to the 7 Tao Saint Immortal realm meant that Su Fang had stepped into the advanced stage of the Saint Immortal realm. With his current strength, he could easily kill an ordinary celestial supremacy expert even if he did not use the peerless Tao artifact. Then, Su Fang used the ethereal enlightenment to absorb the natural spiritual energy and world energy to stabilize the 7 Tao Saint Immortal realm. In an instant, Su Fang swept the spiritual energy within 10,000 miles of the mountain. Such a huge commotion caused everyone in World Palace to be alarmed. In the distance, the World Palace upper echelon who was trying to curry favor with Su Fang was even more shocked. About half a year later, Su Fang had been constantly devouring the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth, as well as medicinal pills and spiritual objects. Finally, he had cultivated his true qi to the point where it was abundant. Thanks a lot. Su Fang took out 1,000 peak top-grade yin-yang immortal sky pellets and threw them to the upper echelon before leaving in embarrassment. Another 3 years passed. Su Fang, Feng Ling, Tuoyu, and the others gathered under the lead of World Palace's Venerate Immortal Bai. They were preparing to head to Heaven's Mandate, Haotsong sect, to participate in the Taoist competition. The Lord of 5 Poisons had successfully advanced to the Saint Immortal stage, and Li Haojie was about to break through to the Dual Tao Saint Immortal stage. Even the monk Shangde, after being baptized by the Dragon Saliva Pond, had not broken through, but his Buddhist qi had become even more vast. The Lord of 5 Poisons and Li Haojie were both extraordinary. They had Su Fang's various resources, including the Divine Essence Pill, which was a precious medicinal pill that ordinary Saint Immortals could not obtain. In addition, Su Fang had given the boundless secular palace's palace feather to the Lord of 5 Poisons for cultivation. Li Haojie was also a tribulation taker. Their progress was considered shocking in the entire great world. Feng Ling, on the other hand, had failed to break through to the Venerate Immortal stage. Venerate Immortals were the supreme beings among immortals. Although Feng Ling had exceptional talent and had absorbed the Dragon Saliva Pond's power of purification, it was still not easy for him to break through to the Venerate Immortal stage. This time, Su Fang had left World Palace and would not return for many years. Therefore, Su Fang had made appropriate arrangements for the Yu clan. With World Palace as their backer and Yu Miaoyin's extraordinary cultivation talent, it would not take long for the Yu clan to become the #1 cultivation clan in the Heaven Tao Immortal world. As for Yu Miaomei, she was naturally taken away by Su Fang and accompanied by Bai Ling in the true dragon realm. This mischievous little girl was deeply liked by Bai Ling and had already been recognized by Bai Ling as his younger sister. World Palace will definitely take first place in the Taoist competition of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect. Let's go to the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect. White venerate immortal's divine light swept over Su Fong and the others before he waved his hand. Through the spatial array they crossed countless galaxies, star regions, and heavenly ravines. It took nearly 10 years for Su Fong and the others to arrive at a huge mass outside the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. This mass was a transit station that led to the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. Su Fong and the others looked over as soon as the shackles of the spatial array disappeared. There were bright stars in front of them that converged to form a galaxy. There were a total of 80 stars, revolving around a boundlessly huge floating continent. The scenery was incomparably majestic, causing Su Fong to be extremely shocked. These 80 stars and the material continent in the center was the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. On the way here, Su Fong had learned a lot about the heavenly fate Haotsong sect from White Venerate Immortal. The heavenly fate Haotsong sect. It was the #1 power in the great world and led the immortal Tao. It represented the heavens and ruled over the fate of all living beings. This was the origin of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect's name. Just the name alone revealed a supreme domineering aura and a disdainful aura. There was a dojo on every star in the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. In addition to the internal dojo mystic realms on the material continent, the heavenly fate Haotsong sect had a total of 81 cultivation dojos. The supremes who presided over the dojos had the lowest cultivation realm, such as the Ji Hong Immortal Venerate. The Ji Hong Immortal Venerate and the Qi Sword Immortal Venerate were also the supremes of the 81 dojos. At the same time, they were also the Star Lords of the Stars. Not only were the supremes the absolute rulers of the dojos, but they also had complete control over the life and death of the entire star. Even the star was named after the supremes. There were countless sects, clans, and cultivation forces on every star. Therefore, these 80 stars were actually the 80 branches of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. In addition to the branch sects and vassal forces scattered across the countless immortal realms in the central immortal domain, the strength of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect was unimaginable. This was only on the surface. It was even more difficult to guess how deep its foundation was. Su Fong, Li Haojie, the Lord of 5 Poisons, and the great monk Shang De secretly communicated. They were all extremely shocked. It seemed that they really were a group of country bumpkins. When Feng Ling and the others saw their expressions, they finally regained some sense of superiority. The heavenly fate Haotsong sect was like a large city, while the World Palace was like a medium-sized city. The immortal domain Su Fong and the others were in was completely rural. Let's go. We'll go to the silent great star first. The White Immortal Venerate led the group of geniuses straight to a huge palace in the center of the material continent. The World Palace was a branch of one of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect's dojos. Originally, they had to report to the star they were in to participate in the heavenly fate Haotsong sect's Tao Disciple competition. However, in order to curry favor with the Ji Hong Immortal Venerate, the White Immortal Venerate decided to send Su Fong to the Silent Great Star dojos first. To enter each star, one had to pass through the spatial formation on the material continent and pass through the barrier door of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. You're from the World Palace. You want to go to the Silent Great Star? Although the heavenly fate Haotsong sect's white-robed cultivator in charge of the teleportation formation was only a 3-Dao Saint Immortal Realm cultivator, he had an arrogant demeanor. The way he looked at the White Immortal Venerate and the others was filled with disdain and arrogance from his bones. Inside the palace, there was a green-robed cultivator. When he heard that Su Fong and the others were going to the Silent Great Star, his gaze swept across the group before landing on Su Fong. Immediately, a mocking smile appeared on his face. Su Fong's perfected ability immediately sensed it. He glanced at the green-robed cultivator and sensed that this person had an origin aura similar to the Ji Hong Immortal Venerates. He was clearly a cultivator from the Silent Great Star, but Su Fong didn't mind. To go to the Silent Great Star, everyone has to pay a divine essence pill or a peak supreme grade Tao artifact. The Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect cultivator in charge of the teleportation formation said. I've been to the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect many times in the past, but I've never heard of any fees. Also, the person in front of me didn't pay anything. White Immortal Venerate raised his white eyebrows. Although World Palace could afford a dozen God Essence pills, it was hard for him to swallow the anger of being extorted for no reason. After all, he was an immortal venerable expert. The white-robed cultivator said domineeringly, "This is the rule I set. Other than the people of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect, everyone else has to pay a fee. If you don't want to, scram. I guarantee that you won't be able to enter the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect in the future." Ling Yu, who had a bad temper, immediately flew into a rage. "Who do you think you are? How dare you threaten Lord Immortal Venerate? Aren't you afraid that we'll report you to the higher-ups of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect?" The white-robed cultivator said coldly, "You want to report me? Go ahead. It's just a dozen divine essence pills. You can have them." White Immortal Venerate gritted his teeth and took out a dozen divine essence pills according to the number of people. He was very depressed. Unexpectedly, the white-robed cultivator sneered. "Now I've changed the rules. Everyone has to pay 10 divine essence pills. Otherwise, scram as far as you can." Now, even White Immortal Venerate was enraged. However, while King Yama was easy to deal with, the imps were hard to deal with. He couldn't do anything to this white-robed cultivator. World Palace was the absolute ruler of the Heaven Dao Immortal Realm, but it was nothing in the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect. Su Fong suddenly said, "I'm Ji Hong Immortal Venerate's disciple. I don't have to pay a fee to bring these friends to Ji Hong Planet, right?" Ji Hong Immortal Venerate's disciple? The white-robed cultivator was shocked. However, the next moment, he laughed in disdain. Although Ji Hong Planet has countless disciples, Ji Hong Immortal Venerate has never accepted a disciple. What proof do you have that you're Ji Hong Immortal Venerate's disciple? Su Fong frowned. Although Ji Hong Immortal Venerate had accepted him as a disciple, he had never given him any proof. A bunch of country bumpkins from World Palace dares to pretend to be Ji Hong Immortal Venerate's disciple? Scram. If you don't scram, I'll get someone to take you, the white-robed cultivator said coldly. There were already many people waiting behind. When they saw this scene, they mocked and sneered. At this moment, the green-robed cultivator in the hall suddenly said, "Everyone is from World Palace. May I ask if Su Fong's Xiao Zun is here?" Su Fong said lightly, "I'm Su Fong. I wonder if I'm the Xiao Zun you're talking about." =_R download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1521. The green-robed cultivator saluted with his fist. "I'm a manager of the solitary Great Star Dao sect. My name is Huoliang. The celestial monarch has been sent by the sect and is not on the solitary Great Star right now. Lord AP Celestial Sovereign has left a jade slip for you. You will know once you see it." "Young master?" This person is actually the young master of the Ji Hongxing. The white-robed cultivator was very shocked. His face immediately paled, and his gaze towards Su Fong was instantly filled with respect. After receiving the jade slip from the green-robed cultivator, Su Fong activated it with his magic power. A faint aura was released from the jade slip, and it turned into a figure. It was the Ji Hongxing Immortal. Then, the Ji Hongxing Immortal spoke with his soul. "Su Fong, the demon race is restless. There are signs that they are about to attack the territory of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect. The great war between immortals and demons is imminent. Thus, the sect has mobilized most of the immortal sovereigns to resist the invasion of the demon race. I am among them." Hearing this, Su Fong was shocked. The great war between immortals and demons is finally about to begin? For the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect to mobilize most of their immortal sovereigns, this war would definitely engulf the entire Immortal Dao world. It was related to the survival of the Immortal Dao. It was not a small battle like the one in the immortal domain Su Fang was in. The Ji Hongxing Immortal's voice continued, "You are my only disciple. Before I left, I had already issued a decree on the Ji Hongxing planet. You will be the young master of the Ji Hongxing planet and will be in charge of everything on the Ji Hongxing planet. Due to my indifferent nature, I have neglected the dojo of the Ji Hongxing planet. Letting you take on such a huge responsibility will definitely cause the entire Ji Hongxing planet to be dissatisfied. You can use all of your vicious method. This will also be a form of training for your cultivation. I have left you my supreme cultivation methods and abilities in my cave abode. You can comprehend them on your own for now. When I return, I will guide you." After the Ji Hongxing Immortal finished speaking, the figure formed by the jade slip disappeared into nothingness. This cheap master of mine has really put in all his effort for me, Su Fang thought to himself, and he felt even more puzzled by the immortal exalted Ji Hong's decision. Looking at Huoliang, Su Fang said calmly, "I am the young master of the solitary great planet. Since master is not here, does the solitary great planet respect me?" Huoliang said, "Of course. You recognized me when I entered the hall, didn't you?" Su Fang's eyes were cold, and a supreme sovereign qi spread out, forming a shocking pressure that made Huoliang tremble, and his will almost collapsed. He originally wanted to make up an excuse, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't say anything. Su Fang sternly said, "You recognized my identity, but you didn't acknowledge me. Obviously you wanted me to make a fool of myself. Wait until we reach Silent Great Star. You will definitely spread the news recklessly and cause my reputation to hit rock bottom. Am I right?" "I know my mistake." With a plop, Huoliang knelt on the ground. Under the pressure of Su Fang's will, his entire body was drenched in sweat. "Since you know your mistake, you should also know what kind of punishment you will receive for offending your superior?" Su Fang's voice turned cold. Huoliang answered with a trembling voice, "You will destroy your cultivation path and be expelled from Silent Great Star. I haven't reached Silent Great Star yet, and I don't want to punish you in front of outsiders. I will remember this for now. If you disrespect me again in the future, I will kill you directly." Su Fang's voice was filled with killing intent, and it made Huoliang tremble again. Only when Su Fang retracted his divine power did Huoliang breathe a sigh of relief. He felt as if he had walked past the edge of death, and his eyes were filled with respect when he looked at Su Fang. Su Fang looked at the white-robed cultivator in charge of the spatial array. "Can I go to Silent Great Star without paying the fee now?" The white-robed cultivator smiled and cupped his fists. "Lord Shao Zun, please." Unexpectedly, Su Fang didn't look like he was going to move. He said coldly, "I am the Shao Zun of Silent Great Star of Tianming Haotsong sect, and you are an ordinary disciple guarding the array. You first extorted me and then mocked me. According to the sect's laws, what is your punishment?" The smile on the white-robed cultivator's face instantly froze. Under Su Fang's sharp gaze, he felt a chill run down his spine. Shao Zun's position in Tianming Haotsong sect is higher than special disciples, and is on the same level as the sect's elders and top 10 disciples. This person offended his superior, and according to the sect's laws, he can be killed on the spot. Huoliang said. He had been scared half to death by Su Fang just now, and if he didn't hurry to please him now, when was the time to do so? Boom! Su Fang exploded with an aura and sent the white-robed cultivator flying. He crashed into the wall of the main hall, and blood spurted from his mouth. His aura immediately weakened. "I just arrived at Tianming Haotsong sect. I don't want to, and you're not worthy of, making me attack. I'm just giving you a small punishment so that you won't look down on others in the future," Su Fang said indifferently, and then walked into the spatial array with Lord Bai and the others. Inside the main hall, It was only after Su Fang and the others had disappeared into the spatial array that a wave of discussion broke out. What a ruthless and domineering silent great star Shao Zun. Silent great star. Looking down at the star from the sky, Su Fang, Li Haojie, and the others were shocked. Through the outer barrier of the star, they could see the forests, long rivers, mountains, and huge immortal cities inside the barrier. Towering mountain peaks shook the heavens. There were palaces and pavilions built on the mountain peaks, and all kinds of rare immortal birds rose and fell in the lingering immortal mist, like a mirage. From the star, there was an astonishing aura of the world and abundant natural spirit qi of heaven and earth. Not to mention the immortal region Su Fang had been in, even in the Heaven Dao immortal world, there was no such holy land for cultivation. This was the result of the suppression of the natural spirit qi of heaven and earth under the influence of the evil yang power. If it was in the past, how amazing would the cultivation environment here be? Huoliang led Su Fang and the others through the array channel and flew in the air, allowing Su Fang to be closer to Silent Great Star. Seeing the prosperous and peaceful scene on the star, Su Fang's heart sank. If the immortal demon war starts, where can we find a pure land in the entire great world? Arriving at the tallest mountain on the planet, Su Fang and the others landed on the plaza in front of a palace that emitted an ancient aura. Swoosh! Swoosh! Hundreds of cultivators, including many female cultivators, came to the square. Huoliang, why did you bring these outsiders to Lord Sovereign's main peak? A middle-aged female cultivator in a purple Taoist robe shouted coldly. Huoliang said, Zizhan, why aren't you coming to greet Shao Zun? The middle-aged female cultivator sized up Su Fang and then brought many cultivators to greet him. These cultivators were usually in charge of handling chores on the main peak and were close to Silent Great Immortal Venerable. They were very respectful to Su Fang and were also very curious, trying to figure out this Shao Zun's nature. Su Fang made arrangements. Zizhan and the other main peak cultivators arranged for White Great Immortal, Li Haojie, and the others to be treated as distinguished guests. The previous unhappiness of White Great Immortal and the other World Palace cultivators disappeared. All of them were extremely grateful to Su Fang. If it weren't for Su Fang's identity as the Shao Zun, how could they have the qualifications to live on the main peak of the Tianming Bright Sect's Taoist field and receive such treatment? Su Fang also released Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, and the other big goblin experts, as well as old monster Zhu Tian, perfected Peng Hua, and the other powerhouses. The cultivation environment here was more than 10 times better than the true Long Realm. He also asked Zizhan to take out the cultivation resources on the main peak for the many powerhouses and big goblin experts to cultivate. Of course, there were also those subordinates in the true Long Realm. Yu Miaomei was also released by Su Fang. She immediately pestered Su Fang, unwilling to leave. After settling everyone down, Su Fang looked for Huoliang and asked, Do you know of a higher-up called Immortal Venerable Xianlin in the Tianming Bright Sect? Huoliang replied respectfully, Immortal Venerable Xianlin? I do know a little. This person is the sovereign of planet Xianlin and is also a sovereign powerhouse in the sect. His strength and status are even higher than Lord Immortal Venerable Ji Hong. The overall strength of planet Xianlin is also much stronger than planet Immortal Venerable Ji Hong. I'm not too sure about the specifics. Immediately inquire about this person, especially the fact that this person took a piece of blood jade from a disciple of the sect. You have to do everything you can to find out more about it. In addition, inquire about the whereabouts of a female cultivator named Huang Lingyao. This person should be in planet Xuanlin's Dao field. Yes, young master. Remember, you have to investigate secretly. Don't let Immortal Venerable Xianlin know anything. After the matter is done, you won't be short of rewards. Huoliang said respectfully, It's my honor to be able to work for young master. How can I dare to accept young master's reward? After Huoliang left, Law spoke in the blood jade. I'm getting closer and closer to a piece of blood jade. I really didn't expect that after being sealed for countless years, I would still have hope of seeing the light of day again. Su Fang said firmly, Law, don't worry. Not only will I help you gather the blood jade that fell into Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect, but I will also help you gather all the blood jades and your body. I look forward to that day, Luo Yu said. Unexpectedly, in the next moment, Law became indecent. You're inquiring about Huang Lingyao. Could it be that you remember the time when you disguised yourself as the gold-faced young master and took advantage of her? Su Fang felt a chill run down her spine and immediately ended her conversation with Law. Huoliang left the main peak and stopped in the air. He suddenly took out a rune talisman. He transmitted his essence soul to the rune talisman. Young Master Dongyang. After a few breaths, an arrogant male voice sounded from the rune talisman. Huoliang, that country bumpkin from World Palace, has arrived at planet Jihong? Yes, Su Fang's young master has already moved into the main peak. Young master? You really think that country bumpkin is young master? The position of young master of planet Jihong belongs to me, Dongyang Lai. Who does that guy think he is? How can a lowly country bumpkin be qualified to compete with this young master for the position of young master? Young Master Dongyang, I've also inquired about Su Fang's background along the way. According to the people from World Palace, he won first place in the Heaven Ascension Conference and was tested to have the potential to become a peak immortal venerable on the Heaven Ascension platform. That's why he was accepted as a disciple by the immortal venerable. Let me remind you, young Master Dongyang, don't underestimate this guy. Geniuses always die young. When the immortal venerable returns, this guy might already be dead. Dongyang Lai's voice was cold and murderous. Young Master Dongyang, I won't interfere with your competition for the position of young master. I wish you, young Master Dongyang, to become the supreme ruler of planet Jihong. With that, Huoliang put away the rune talisman and turned to escape into the void. To all the readers, I would like to introduce the new book of the Xuanhuan Almighty Book Maniac, Myriad Worlds Martial God. =_our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1522. On the main peak of the silent great star. Su Fang stayed on the silent great star as Shao Zun. The white immortal of the World Palace had obtained the permission of the Star Dojo that the World Palace belonged to. He brought all the geniuses participating in the competition to stay on the main peak of the silent great star. Under Z Satin's lead, Su Fang came to the abode where the silent great immortal usually cultivated. In the jade slip left behind by the Jihong immortal exalt, there was a Dharma seal to enter the abode. After Su Fang struck out with the Dharma seal, the abode's formation barrier in the void slowly glowed with spiritual light, and Su Fang passed through the formation and entered. The Silent Great Immortal was actually a space created by the Silent Great Immortal on the main peak using a supreme ability and immortal formation. The abode was not large, only a few hundred meters in size. Su Fang could only enter one of the outer rooms. The depths of the abode were sealed by a powerful formation. Su Fang used his great perfection ability and the life-shrinking technique to sense the depths of the abode. He immediately sensed a faintly discernible aura. It was somewhat similar to the aura that Su Fang sensed from the silent great immortal. It gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. He quickly retracted his sensing power in fright. This cheap master of mine is really unfathomable. Su Fang did not dare to continue sensing anything. He entered the outer room and found a rune talisman in the room. Su Fang activated the rune talisman and released a strand of divine sense from it. The silent great immortal's voice rang out in his mind, Su Fang, I'll leave the 4 seasons reincarnation seal to you. Before I return to the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect, you can comprehend and cultivate it yourself. The 4 Seasons Reincarnation Seal is a seal that I comprehended from a supreme ability. After mastering it, you can release the power of the reincarnation of the 4 seasons with unparalleled power. Then, time seemed to fly by in Su Fang's mind. The 4 seasons changed and finally turned into thousands of seals that floated in the depths of his mind. These seals seemed ordinary, but they were extremely profound and profound. It was difficult to master in a short time. Time was as ethereal as fate. Almost no one could grasp it. The time reincarnation Tao was also the grand Tao of heaven and earth, the laws of the universe. It was the most mysterious and powerful grand Tao in the entire universe. The 4 Seasons Samsara Seal's Samsara power of the 4 Seasons Samsara Seal might only be the most basic Samsara power of the 4 Seasons Samsara power, but it was still a supreme Samsara power. It could unleash the Samsara power of the 4 Seasons and the evolution of time to wear down all Samsara power and Tao artifacts. Just think about it, what kind of divine ability, what kind of Tao item could withstand the erosion of time? However, the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Seal contained the profound profundities of the Grand Tao. If one wanted to fully grasp this divine ability, not only would one require time and experience to cultivate, one would also need to possess a profound comprehension of the supreme heavenly Tao. Fortunately, the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Seal was just a series of seals and not a profound Tao rune like the life-shrinking art. He only needed to master one seal to master this divine ability. Su Fang sent the seals into the heavenly devil blood plate in the depths of his divine aperture. Then, he activated the heavenly devil separation seal and separated over 1,000 young immortals into the heavenly devil blood plate. Each young immortal comprehended a seal. This way, it was equivalent to over 1,000 Su Fang cultivating at the same time. When the time came, he would fuse these young immortals together and master all the seals. Su Fang's speed of cultivating the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Seal was naturally unbelievably fast. Even the Ji-Hong Immortal Venerable probably couldn't have imagined this. The Ji-Hong Immortal Venerable even gave me the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Seal to cultivate. He's so good to me. I wonder what his true intentions are. No matter what his intentions are, since I have the identity of young master, I have to make full use of it. The Ji-Hong Star Dao Field is one of the 81 Dao fields of the Tianming Haotsong sect. It has extremely abundant cultivation resources. No inheritance I've obtained before can compare to it. If I don't make use of it, I'll really be an idiot. Su Fang cultivated the 9 Yang 9 transformations, Yellow Spring Blood Sea, Fire Cloud Emperor Body, Black Lotus True Body, Dragon Subduing True Body, and Faceless Golden Dipper Body. Which one of them didn't require large amounts of spirit items, resources, and even precious treasures? In addition to the experts under him, the Big Goblin, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers, the daily consumption was extremely shocking. In addition, refining the Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Pill and King Grade Pills required large amounts of materials. Since he had such a powerful master, how could Su Fang not make use of it? Su Fang called Zi Satin over and asked about the resources and materials. The sovereign carries all the resources he uses for cultivation with him. There are some cultivation resources stored on the main peak for us to use. The various resources of the Ji-Hong Star Dao Field are stored in the secret vault. With young master's identity, you can naturally take whatever you want. Zi Satin's words made Su Fang very happy. He immediately called Huoyang over and left the main peak, heading straight for the Dao Field's secret vault. Whoosh! Su Fang and Huoyang appeared on the square at the top of the mountain and headed straight for the palace. It was the day to collect resources, and there were many cultivators of the Ji-Hong Star who had come to collect resources in the palace. Huoyang brought Su Fang to the front. Young master. The cultivator in charge of distributing resources was shocked when he heard Huoyang mention Su Fang's identity. He hurriedly went forward and bowed. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Everyone's eyes in the palace were focused on Su Fang. The news that there was an additional young master on the Jihong star had already spread throughout the Jihong star. Seeing Su Fang now, many cultivators of the Jihong star were extremely curious. Sensing that Su Fang's aura was only at the 7 Dao Saint Immortal realm, everyone's eyes instantly changed to confusion, mockery, and disdain. In the great world, the strong were respected, and the heavenly fate Haotsong sect was even more so. The Jihong celestial supremacy had never accepted a disciple before, and everyone thought that he would definitely be an exceptional genius this time. They did not expect him to be a 7 Dao Saint Immortal Realm cultivator. With such a cultivation level, he could be considered a strong cultivator in other places, but he was far from qualified to become the young master of the Jihong star. Sensing everyone's gaze, Su Fang smiled faintly and did not take it to heart. Su Fang's purpose in coming to the heavenly fate Haotsong sect was to obtain the blood jade. He did not care about other identities and positions. His Dao heart was firm, and he did not care about what others thought of him. "Show me the list of treasures in the secret vault," Su Fang said to the cultivator in charge of distributing resources. 13 exceptional flame seeds. Golden origin iron essence. Vast yang pill. Su Fang found various spiritual items and resources that were extremely helpful for cultivation among the jade slip. Although Su Fang's fire cloud emperor physique had matured, he still needed a large number of exceptional flame seeds to continue evolving. 13 exceptional flame seeds were enough to raise his fire cloud emperor physique to a whole new level, and it was also extremely helpful for cultivating the 9 Suns' 9 transformations. The golden origin iron essence was a supreme metal-type treasure in the great world. It was extremely rare and was the best material for cultivating the faceless golden dipper body. The vast yang pill was even more useful for Su Fang. The vast yang pill was a rare pill in the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. This pill was refined from the sun and contained a shocking amount of yang energy. It was a treasure for Su Fang to cultivate the yang meridian. There were also many spiritual items of heaven and earth. They were rare and precious resources for Su Fang's cultivation, as well as the cultivation of his subordinates, the big goblin and the demons. "I'm the young master of the Jihong star. I can take any of these treasures. I'm rich, I'm rich." Su Fang's heart pounded. In other places in the great world, one would have to go through untold hardships and even pay the price of one's life to obtain one of these treasures. Now that Su Fang was the young master of the Jihong star, he could obtain these treasures without taking any risk. How could he not be surprised? When Su Fang had become his disciple, he had kowtowed to the Jihong Venerable Immortal, which had made him very unhappy for a while. For these treasures, he wouldn't hesitate to kowtow to the Jihong Venerable Immortal 30 times. "Take me to the treasury." Su Fang couldn't wait to get these treasures. The cultivator in charge of distributing the resources replied, "I don't have the authority to take young master into the treasury. If you want to enter, you must get permission from steward Dong Yang. I'll report to him now." Just as this cultivator transmitted his voice through runes, Holiang also secretly transmitted his voice to Su Fang. "Young master, if you want to enter the treasury, why don't you wait for the sovereign to come back?" Su Fang responded in surprise, "Why? There are 13 major families in the Jihong star, and they are very powerful. The Jihong Star Dojo is supported by the 13 families, and the Dongyang family is one of them. They are in charge of the treasury. The Dongyang family is tyrannical on the Jihong Star, and they don't care about anyone except the sovereign." "So what?" "The Dongyang family has an exceptional genius called Dongyang Lai. Not only is he the top disciple of the Jihong Star Dojo, but he is also a special disciple of the Destiny Haotsong sect. His cultivation talent and strength are second only to the top 10 disciples of the Destiny Haotsong sect. Dongyang Lai has always wanted to be a disciple of the sovereign, but he didn't get his wish. However, this person sees the position of young master of the Jihong star as his. Su Fang was very clear. Now that young master has been accepted as a disciple by the sovereign and is the young master of the Jihong star, Dongyang Lai and the entire Dongyang family are completely unconvinced. I was rude to young master before because I was instructed by Dongyang Lai. Huoliang hesitated, then continued to transmit his essence spirit. Young master, if you want to enter the treasure vault controlled by the Dongyang family now, you will definitely be rejected. It will be a heavy blow to your reputation and prestige in front of so many people. Su Fang smiled faintly. It's fine. Su Fang didn't want to be the young master of the Jihong star, nor did he want to get into a conflict with the family forces on the Jihong star and cause trouble for no reason. However, since trouble had come knocking on his door, Su Fang wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble. After waiting for half an incense stick's worth of time, the treasure trove manager finally arrived. This person was very polite and saluted Su Fang with cupped fists. Greetings, young master. Dongyang Hai. I heard that young master wants to get resources from the treasure vault. What are they? Su Fang didn't beat around the bush and said directly, exotic flame seeds. Dongyang Hai smiled and said, I'm really sorry, but all the exotic flame seeds in the treasure vault have been reserved by Mr. Dongyang Lai. Reserved by Dongyang Lai? Su Fang raised his eyebrows. What about the golden origin iron essence? Dongyang Hai said apologetically, what a coincidence. The golden origin iron essence was also reserved by Mr. Dongyang Lai. =_R download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1523. Traces of coldness seeped out from Su Fang's eyes. The cultivators of planet Silent Grandeur in the hall were attracted by the commotion. They laughed when they saw Su Fang being rebuffed by Dongyang Hai, but they didn't dare to make a sound. Su Fang said coldly, there are still 100,000 vast yang pills in the vault. Did Dongyang Lai reserve all of them? Young master, you are indeed wise, Dongyang Hai replied in a neutral tone. Su Fang said again, did Dongyang Lai reserve all the things I want? Exactly, Dongyang Hai said with a smile. Dongyang Hai said with a smile. Although he was still smiling and appeared to be very polite and respectful, even a blind person could see that he was mocking and teasing Su Fang. I am the young master of planet Silent Grandeur. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the sect for being so arrogant? Who the hell is Dongyang Lai? How dare he take the treasures of the vault by force? I am in charge of the vault and strictly abide by my duties. How can I be arrogant? Young Master Dongyang Lai is a special disciple of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. His reputation is second only to the top 10 disciples. He has made countless contributions to planet Silent Grandeur, so he naturally has the right to use all the treasures in the vault. Young master, you are new here, yet you want to take the treasures away. Forgive me for not being able to comply. It seems like you really think the vault is private property of the Dongyang clan. Before master left, he issued a decree on planet Silent Grandeur that I am the young master of planet Silent Grandeur. You are making things difficult for me when I want to take a few treasures from the vault. What do you think the sovereign's decree is? Where is the sovereign's status? Su Fang said majestically. The aura of an overlord of a celestial region was revealed. Dongyang Hai was very strong to be in charge of the vault. He had reached the 8 Paths Saint Immortal Realm, but he trembled under the pressure of Su Fang's aura. However, he was still extremely arrogant. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you are the young master. On planet Silent Great, the Dongyang clan recognizes you as Shao Zun. You are Shao Zun. Without the Dongyang clan's recognition, you are nothing. If you continue to cause trouble here, don't blame me for being impolite and shackling you. What an arrogant Dongyang clan. Today, I will enter the treasury no matter what. Who dares to stop me? Su Fangda walked towards the back of the palace. Dongyang Hai shouted coldly, "Men, take him down!" Whoosh, whoosh. More than 10 cultivators rushed out and surrounded Su Fang. They unleashed their auras and surrounded him. Mingji can't beat the Dongyang family, but he still wants to use his status as young master to oppress them. He's asking for humiliation. I heard that Xiao Zun came from a desolate celestial region and doesn't have much experience. Now that his status is different, he naturally wants to show off his might in front of others. I didn't expect to kick an iron plate this time. Let's see if he still has the face to be the young master after being shackled by the Dongyang family. The cultivators in the hall discussed animatedly, mocking and ridiculing Su Fang without any scruples. Boom! An Emperor Divine aura burst out from Su Fang's body. It was as if the will of heaven had enveloped the hall. Instantly, everyone within the hall felt as if they were commoners that were facing an exalted emperor, and they couldn't help but feel lowly and tiny. Some with weaker Tao hearts had even knelt down and submitted successively. The way everyone looked at Su Fang changed drastically. They were no longer mocking and ridiculing him, but full of respect. Get lost. Dongyang Hai, who had been extremely arrogant a moment ago, was suppressed by Su Fang's Emperor Divine aura. He could barely resist, and was hit in the dantian by Su Fang. Su Fang formed a seal with the power of the world of yin and yang and sent it into Dongyang Hai's golden core to shackle him. You shackled my golden core? The Dongyang family won't let you go, Dongyang Hai said with a trembling voice. Lead the way immediately if you don't want to die. Su Fang let out a cold shout filled with killing intent. Dongyang Hai trembled. Su Fang's voice seemed to be able to decide his life and death. Since his golden core was shackled, he couldn't resist and had to take Su Fang to the secret treasury behind the palace. Golden iron essence. Abnormal flame seed. Vast yang pill. Su Fang put all the golden iron essence, abnormal flame seeds, and vast yang pills into his storage ring. He didn't leave a single abnormal flame seed or 100,000 vast yang pills behind. Not only that, but he also took all the spirit objects and resources that were useful to him, his masters, and the big goblin, including the 500 ancient spirit meridians, and put them in the cultivation dojo of the true dragon realm. Su Fang didn't leave until he had almost emptied the treasury of the Jaihongsing dojo. This guy is so overbearing. He took almost all the treasures in the treasury. Let's see how long he can stay as the young master after offending the Dongyang family. If the Dongyang family joins forces with the other families and opposes this guy as the young master, even the sovereign will have to be careful and might kick him out of the Jaihongsing planet. Everyone recovered from the great pressure brought by Su Fang's dominating aura and started to discuss again. Dongyang Hai's eyes flashed fiercely and he said, "If you know what's good for you and hide on the main peak, the Dongyang family won't be able to do anything to you. But you robbed the treasury and shackled my golden core. You fell into Lord Dongyang Lai's trap. Let's see how the Dongyang family will deal with you." Dongyang Hai then tried to break the shackles of the golden core, but he couldn't move the shackles at all. He could only find the overlords of the Dongyang family to help him break the shackles. However, Su Fang's world of yin and yang was the power of a greater world. Even an immortal supremacy expert couldn't break the shackles. Dongyang Hai wouldn't be able to activate his golden core for at least 100,000 years, which was equivalent to becoming a useless person. Su Fang didn't want to kill such a small figure and spared Dongyang Hai's life. Otherwise, with Su Fang's ruthless personality, how could he survive? Su Fang returned to the main peak and distributed the plundered resources and spiritual items to his subordinates, the big goblin, and the army of more than 300,000 cultivators and commanders. With such a large number of resources, Su Fang's overall strength would definitely undergo a great transformation. Su Fang had obtained so many exotic flame seeds, vast yang pills, golden origin iron essence, and wood elemental spiritual items. After digesting all these treasures, his strength would definitely undergo an amazing transformation. Exotic flame seeds. 13 exotic flame seeds, each the size of an adult's fist, exuded an amazing and majestic fire elemental power. These exotic flame seeds weren't any weaker than the heavenly light exotic flame that he had merged with before. In the past, Su Fang had almost died to get the heavenly light exotic flame. Now, he had obtained 13 exotic flame seeds almost effortlessly. How could Su Fang not be surprised? If he merged all the exotic flame seeds, how much would his fire cloud emperor physique transform? On the main peak, Su Fang found a remote rocky area and prepared to fuse with the deviant flame seed. First, he released the dragon bird. After devouring a large amount of dragon qi in the dragon saliva pool, the dragon bird grew to more than 200 feet tall, and its divine sun aura became even more amazing. This is a vast yang pill for you. Su Fang wrapped more than 1,000 red vast yang pills in a xian guang and gave them to the dragon bird. After letting out an excited cry, the dragon bird held the vast yang pill in its mouth and flew to a place where there was no one on the main peak to slowly enjoy it. The vast yang pill was refined from the sun and contained the essence of the sun. Not only was it very useful for Su Fang's yang meridian, it was even more effective than the yin-yang immortal sky pill. At the same time, it was a great tonic for the dragon bird's growth. In the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect, the vast yang pill was an extremely rare and precious cultivation resource. There were only 100,000 vast yang pills stored in the entire treasury of the Silent Great Star. Only disciples who had accumulated enough merit points could exchange for them with merit points. This time, Su Fang had come to collect everything in one fell swoop. 100,000 vast yang pills were enough for the dragon bird to enjoy for many years. And for a long time, he didn't have to worry about lacking resources to cultivate the Nine Suns transformation. Let's merge the exotic flame seeds first. Su Fang created a formation around him and released the undead lord to protect him. Then, he took out 3 exotic flame seed. As he activated the illusory fire cloud, the yang qi in his body surged wildly. In an instant, Su Fang's body burned fiercely, turning into a sea of fire that was close to 3,000 feet wide. The Nine Suns' immortal fire burned wildly, melting the surrounding rocks into magma. A shocking fire elemental divine might enveloped half of the main peak. The mature fire cloud emperor physique was so terrifying. When the burning state reached its peak, Su Fang, who had turned into a sea of fire, sent the 3 exotic flame seeds into the sea of fire with a thought. They were swallowed by the flames. He turned into a flaming man. Then, he wrapped his hands around the unknown exotic flame seeds and held them in his palms. Chi, chi, chi. The sea of fire quickly absorbed the exotic flame seed's energy, and the exotic flame aura rose from the sea of fire. Su Fang's 9 Suns' immortal fire was so domineering that it was above any flame in the great world. It was very easy to fuse with the exotic flame seed. It only took some time. Gradually, the surging fire cloud expanded, and the divine might of the flames became even more terrifying. At the same time, deep in Su Fang's body, the yin-yang Dao wheel formed by the 43 yang meridians was also in a fiery state. The world seed was also crazily absorbing the fire elemental energy. On the seed, the tender leaf formed by the fire cloud emperor physique emitted a shocking fiery glow, like a flame. After an unknown period of time, the sea of fire had reached an astonishing 4,000 feet wide, and Su Fang returned to his normal state. He absorbed the remaining exotic flame seeds that had yet to be fused into the yin-yang Dao wheel and attacked the meridian outside the 43rd yang meridian. Su Fang had previously devoured the heavenlight exotic flame, the unknown exotic flame seeds, the 1,000 illusion astral fire, and the thunder fury explosive flames. Therefore, the effect of the exotic flame seeds on the yang meridian was far inferior to before, and it was not as obvious as when he cultivated the fire cloud emperor physique. In addition, Su Fang's yin-yang Dao wheel had become more profound, and the 43rd yang meridian had just been born. After absorbing the 3 exotic flame seeds, the 44th meridian that was attacking gradually began to burn. After fusing 2 more exotic flame seed, Qi. Suddenly, a strange movement in the yin-yang Dao wheel began to explode, and a shocking power was brewing. The 44th yang meridian that was attacking was about to be successfully formed. =_our download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1524. Su Fang began to activate the 9 Suns' 9 transformations. He gathered all his strength to attack the 44th yang meridian. Waves of tsunami-like attacks made the yang meridian look even more like a jade meridian. Half a year later, the 44th yang meridian finally calmed down. Su Fang used the vast yang pill to quickly replenish the yang qi he used and started to attack the 45th yang meridian. As a result, he was one step closer to the 5th transformation of the 9 Suns' 9 transformations. Su Fang peeled off a yang immortal and entered the origin saint stage. Entering the space of the red magic treasure, this time, Su Fang discovered that he could already slowly fly within the treasured mirror space equals n_1. Compared to cultivators flying on flying swords in nature, it was still far inferior. However, as his cultivation increased, his ability to control the origin saint stage also increased. This made Su Fang very happy. He released his intent and waited for a while. A familiar cold chi suddenly swept over. You're about to reach the 5th transformation of the 9 Suns' 9 transformations? Even so, you don't have to tell me or show off in front of me. The mysterious woman's voice was like the cold chi of the 9 Suns' 9 sons. Su Fang said respectfully, I became the disciple of the Ji Hong Immortal Venerable and obtained a divine power called the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Seal from him. It's a supreme divine power of the time reincarnation Tao. Therefore, I came to ask for your guidance. He asked you to cultivate the time reincarnation Tao divine power? The mysterious woman was clearly surprised. Then, her voice became colder. The time reincarnation Tao is a type of supreme heavenly Tao. It's almost at the level of the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. Of course, you can cultivate it. Although I've heard of this great Tao, I've never cultivated it. I can't give you any advice. You should cultivate according to the Ji Hong Immortal Venerable's inheritance. The Ji Hong Immortal Venerable took me in as his disciple and made me the young master of the Ji Hong planet. I'm in charge of everything on the Ji Hong planet. Isn't this person's actions a little suspicious? Su Fang took the opportunity to ask. This was his main purpose of entering the Origin Saint mirror space. You don't have to trick me. There are some things you don't have the right to know now. Although you can be considered a peerless expert in the outside world, you're still weak. Knowing things you shouldn't know will only bring you disaster. Yes, thank you for your guidance, Senior. Immortal Exalt Ji Hong's origins are 100 times more terrifying than you can imagine. However, this person thinks highly of you because it's your fortuitous encounter, and it's only beneficial to you. Work hard. I hope you can stand in the world of the truly powerful as soon as possible. Junior will definitely not dare to relax. The cold air had completely disappeared. Su Fang's Yang Immortal also returned to his body. Looks like the mysterious senior really does know the Ji Hong Immortal Exalted. Moreover, there are some grudges between them. To be able to get involved with that senior, it seems that this cheap master of mine is really not simple. After Su Fang pondered for a while, he stopped thinking about anything else. Next, he furiously fused with the remaining strange flame seeds and vast yang pills to continuously improve his fire cloud imperial body. He wanted to break through the most crucial 45th yang meridian of the 9 yang transformations. Few more than a dozen figures passed through the array formation and appeared outside the main peak. The leader was a young man who looked less than 30 years old. He was handsome and wore a fiery red Taoist robe with the divine Sun Tao pattern. Under his sharp eyebrows, his deep eyes shone with a domineering and unruly luster. Satin appeared above the main peak and said coldly to the young man, "Dongyang Lai, this is where Lord Sovereign cultivates and lives. How dare you barge in? Leave before you make a mistake." It turned out that this young man in the fiery red Taoist robe was Dongyang Lai, the prodigy of the Dongyang clan, the #1 clan in Ji-Hong Star. Dongyang Lai said domineeringly, "Someone injured the manager of the treasure vault and forcibly stole the treasures and resources in the vault. Since the Dongyang clan is in charge of the vault, they naturally have the responsibility to capture the culprit. Tell Su Fang to come out and see me." "How dare you be so rude to Xiao Zun? Could it be that the Dongyang clan is planning to rebel while Lord Sovereign is away from the solitary Great Star?" Satin furrowed her brows and shouted angrily. Flames flashed in Dongyang Lai's eyes. The divine light swept across the main peak and finally landed on the palace where the people from World Palace lived. After a cold smile, Dongyang Lai exploded with a shockingly violent flame divine power, forcing Satin to the side. The main peak of Ji-Hong Star is where Lord Sovereign cultivate. What is World Palace? How dare they live on the main peak? There is even a big goblin living on the main peak. What do they think Ji-Hong Star is? Men, capture the people from World Palace and those big goblin and send them to the punishment hall. Following Dongyang Lai's cold shout, the dozen or so cultivators behind him went straight to the palace. "You've gone too far." A figure charged out of the palace with a wild and domineering aura. He collided with a cultivator from the Dongyang clan and sent him flying. This person's hair was disheveled and his feet were bare. He exuded a violent and majestic aura like an ancient beast. It was Tuoyu. The cultivators from World Palace were afraid of implicating the sect and the Dongyang clan, so they did not dare to attack. Tuoyu, on the other hand, was not afraid of anything. Moreover, in the World Palace's Milky Way trial space, Su Fang had shown mercy. After that, he was convinced by Su Fang's talent and power. Hence, he was very respectful of Su Fang. This time, he lived on the main peak and Su Fang provided a large amount of cultivation resources for the geniuses from World Palace. This made Tuoyu even more grateful. Although Tuoyu was barbaric, he was a person who clearly distinguished kindness and hatred. At this time, Su Fang was cultivating in seclusion. Now that Dongyang Lai was bullying him, Tuoyu was the first to attack without hesitation. Ancient giant barbarian tribe? Dongyang Lai looked at Tuoyu in surprise. Then he smiled disdainfully and said in a voice full of killing intent, "Yes." Dongyang Lai looked down from above and stepped out with a terrifying aura that could burn the world. He crushed toward Tuoyu. "I'd like to see how strong a special disciple of Tianming Haotsang sect is." Tuoyu's eyes burned with a wild and crazy light. After his body shook, he turned into a giant more than 300 feet tall and charged toward Dongyang Lai with a terrifying aura that could shatter the world. Boom! Dongyang Lai was like an erupting volcano. The power of fire collided with Tuoyu's aura, causing an earth-shattering explosion. The temperature on the main peak suddenly rose, making people feel as if they were in a furnace. The surrounding formation boundary also shook violently. Tuoyu fell to the ground and his aura instantly weakened. His body was covered with burn marks, which was a shocking sight. Dongyang Lai took advantage of the situation to crush him. After quickly forming a seal, he created a burning domain around Tuoyu. A large amount of heavenly fire rushed toward Tuoyu. The cultivators of Tianming Haotsang sect cultivated the supreme way of the heavens, while Dongyang Lai cultivated the great way of fire. He used the great way of fire to extract essence from heaven and earth and borrow power from the stars. The fire he released was not ordinary, but heavenly fire, which had the terrifying ability to incinerate all matter and energy. Tuoyu's powerful strength came from his physical body. He was good at close combat, but not good at magic attacks. Enveloped by Dongyang Lai's heavenly fire, he immediately fell into a precarious situation. It's a pity to kill such an ancient giant barbarian tribe cultivator. Why don't I make you a slave of the Dongyang clan? Dongyang Lai's eyes flashed with coldness. He formed 2 seals, one of which fell into Tuyu's dantian and shackled his golden core. The other seal turned into a flame xianguang and covered Tuyu's face, turning into a flame Dao pattern. This kind of Dao pattern was a kind of slave seal that could not be washed away. No matter where he went, he would be a slave and be looked down upon. Dongyang Lai, you'll die a horrible death. Tuoyu was shocked and angry. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he fainted. Young Master Dongyang Lai, Tuoyu is a genius from World Palace who will be participating in the Battle of the Daoist. Don't you think you've gone too far by treating him like this? White Immortal couldn't help but roar in anger. Shut up if you don't want World Palace to be removed from the macro world. Dongyang Lai was still so arrogant in the face of an Immortal Prime expert. One could imagine how arrogant the Dongyang clan was on the solitary great planet. White Immortal's deep eyes were filled with fear. Feng Ling, Ling Yu, and the other disciples of World Palace were all furious. However, it was related to the safety of the sect. Even the arrogant and powerful Feng Ling had to swallow his anger. Is the Dongyang clan planning to rebel? A majestic voice sounded. Su Fang walked out of the formation and appeared in the air. Looking down at Dongyang Lai, Su Fang said coldly, "Master left me a message. He said that he usually neglected the management of the solitary great planet. As a result, some clans are lawless. I didn't expect the Dongyang clan to be so arrogant. They don't even respect the sovereign and dare to be so presumptuous on the main peak." "Your young master?" Dongyang Lai raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a disdainful and mocking smile. Then Dongyang Lai said coldly, "The sovereign is the sovereign of the solitary great planet. Who dares to disrespect him? Now that the sovereign isn't on the solitary great planet, as the young master, you've taken advantage of the sovereign's power to rob the treasury. You're just like a thief. I'm here to seek justice for my Dongyang clan members. At the same time, I'm taking back the treasures and resources that belong to me. Since you're young and ignorant, I won't hold you accountable. Go to the punishment hall to receive your punishment and reflect on your mistake. When the sovereign returns, he'll deal with you." Before the sovereign left, he told me to take charge of everything on the solitary great planet. Who do you think you are? How dare you override the sovereign's orders? Trespassing on the main peak and injuring people is a capital offense. Su Fang's voice was filled with murderous intent. A burst of fire element divine power burst out and enveloped the entire main peak. Dongyang Lai used his fire element divine power to shackle Tuoyu. Su Fang planned to use his fire element divine power to deal with him. The Dongyang clan's heavenly fire divine power shocked the Tianming Haotsong sect. "You dare to use fire element divine power to fight me? You really don't know what's good for you. I'll see what qualifications you have to be accepted as the sovereign's disciple and become the young master of the solitary great planet." Dongyang Lai sneered in disdain. He activated his fire element divine power and charged at Su Fang. =R download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1525. Boom. Su Fang's fire elemental divine might was the terrifying power released by the most domineering nine-sun celestial fire of the great world. At the same time, Su Fang activated the fire elemental divine might of Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. Dongyang Lai cultivated the heavenly fire superpower, which contained the violent destructive power of the heavenly Tao. The collision of the two fire elemental divine might was like the explosion of a divine Sunday flames soared into the sky, and the scorching divine might swept in all directions. It was extremely shocking. Countless buildings, trees, and even rocks and soil on the top of the main peak melted under the high temperature. If it weren't for the powerful array protecting the main peak, everything on the top of the main peak would have been incinerated. Dongyang Lai fell to the ground like a falling star. With a loud explosion, flames swept across. Su Fang remained motionless in the air. He was majestic, like a god of fire descending to the world. Dongyang Lai was completely defeated in their first confrontation. His heavenly fire superpower was completely suppressed by Su Fang's 9-sun celestial fire. What a domineering fire elemental divine might! So you also cultivate the great Tao of fire. No wonder the sovereign thought highly of you and took you in as a disciple. Dongyang Lai's eyes were solemn. He no longer looked down on Su Fang like before. However, competing with me in fire elemental divine might is like showing off before an expert. You don't deserve to be the young master of the solitary great planet. Today, I will let you know what the supreme fire elemental divine might is, and I, Dongyang Lai, am the best candidate to be the young master of the solitary great planet. Heaven burning flame equals N_1. Dongyang Lai formed a seal with both hands. A supreme will that controlled the great Tao exploded from Dongyang Lai's body, causing him to emit the most dazzling divine light. Then, he suddenly parted his hands towards Su Fang. In an instant, the area around Su Fang burned with raging flames, forming a prairie fire. The scorching flames distorted the void. Flames burned and swept towards Su Fang like tongues of fire. The shocking power of burning and shackling could burn everything in the world. 9-sun celestial fire. Su Fang smiled coldly and released the 9 suns' immortal flame from his body. In an instant, his skin, flesh, and even his entire body turned into flames. Su Fang, who had turned into a flaming man, was like a fire god that had descended to the world, controlling all the fire energy and laws in the world. The flame formed by Dongyang Lai's divine ability was immediately suppressed and dimmed a lot. It no longer had the terrifying momentum from before. The immortal flames of the 9 suns were superior to all other flames in the great world. Regardless of whether it was the flames formed by divine abilities or the natural flames formed between heaven and earth, all of them had to obediently submit before the domineering immortal flames of the 9 suns. The next moment, Su Fang, who had turned into a flaming man, suddenly burst into flames again, instantly turning into a sea of fire. At this moment, Su Fang's real body and flesh could no longer be seen. All that was left was a burning sea of fire that covered an area of more than 4,000 feet. It gave people the feeling that it covered the sky and covered the sun. The whole world had turned into flames. In an instant, the fire cloud devoured Dongyang Lai's divine ability, then with a whoosh it rolled toward Dongyang Lai and engulfed him in an instant. Dongyang Lai's defensive aura was instantly reduced to nothing. No matter how he struggled and resisted, his body sizzled in the flames, unable to resist the burning of the immortal flames of the 9 suns. I am the peerless genius of the Dongyang clan. How dare you kill me? Let me go. From now on, I will respect you as the young master of the solitary great planet. I will never provoke you again. In the face of death, the arrogant Dongyang Lai finally knew what fear was and loudly begged for mercy. I am the young master of the solitary great planet. I don't need anyone's recognition. Let you go? If I fell into your hands today, would you let me go? Since you made a move, you should be prepared to be killed. Even the Dongyang clan can't save you. In the burning sea of fire, Su Fang's cold voice that was filled with murderous intent was a stark contrast to the surrounding flames. Dongyang Lai let out a few screams before he was burned by the immortal flames of the 9 suns and finally turned into ashes. Whoosh, the flames tumbled and finally condensed into Su Fang's physical form. What kind of shocking scene was this? One had to know that this wasn't a divine power, but a divine power formed from the physical body of a true body. Even the white immortal of the World Palace found it hard to believe that there was such a terrifying physical ability in the great world. A human's physical body could be used to such a shocking state. The white immortal, Feng Ling, and the other geniuses of the World Palace used to think that Su Fang was a physical cultivator who cultivated the Dragon Clan's cultivation method and divine power. Only now did they realize that Su Fang could also transform his physical body into a fiery cloud state, which was powerful enough to kill an ordinary immortal supremacy. Su Fang is right. I can only look up at his height. I can't surpass him. The extremely arrogant Feng Ling completely gave up on the idea of surpassing Su Fang. If the target was too high, it would be impossible to surpass it. It would only hurt his confidence. Ling Yu trembled with fear. She had once offended Su Fang in the World Palace. Previously, she thought that Su Fang wouldn't dare to do anything to her because she was one of the top 3 disciples of the World Palace. Only now did she realize how wrong she was. Su Fang had the strength to kill an ordinary immortal supremacy and even a peerless genius of the Dongyang clan. If he really wanted to kill her, there was no need for him to be afraid. He would just ignore her. Su Fang had used up a lot of energy to use the Fire Cloud Emperor body to kill Dongyang Lai. His face turned pale. Su Fang's cold gaze swept past the stunned cultivators of the Dongyang clan. Su Fang, how dare you kill a genius of the Dongyang clan? No matter who you are, the Dongyang clan will never let you go. An elder among the dozen cultivators of the Dongyang clan who came with Dongyang Lai roared angrily. The elder's strength had reached the peak of the 9th Dao Saint Immortal Realm. He was considered an extraordinary powerhouse. Su Fang, just you wait for the Dongyang clan's thunder fury. Let's go. The elder of the Dongyang clan led the other cultivators to leave the main peak. Su Fang shouted, "Since you dare to come to the main peak, none of you can leave. Stay here. I finally have a chance to exercise 5 Poisons True Body, Poison Domain." The Lord of 5 Poisons chuckled and activated the 5 Poisons True Body. All kinds of poisonous substances gathered into rolling black clouds and shot out poisonous gas to form a vast poison domain. It surged toward the dozen cultivators of the Dongyang clan and instantly enveloped them. These cultivators were all peerless powerhouses of the Dongyang clan. One of them unleashed his aura to disperse the poison domain. What awaited them were the frenzied attacks of Li Haojie, the monk, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, and Gui Gui. Li Haojie and the monk's strength was extraordinary. Bai Ling and Zhu Huang had become demon emperors. Gui Gui had grown to a terrifying level that could threaten immortal venerables. How could the cultivators of the Dongyang clan withstand the attacks of so many powerhouses? In less than 10 breaths, except for the elder who was at the peak of the 9th Dao Saint Immortal Realm, the other cultivators of the Dongyang clan were either severely injured or killed. The elder of the Dongyang clan broke out of the encirclement and threatened fiercely, "Su Fang, you dare to harm the members of the Dongyang clan. You are the sworn enemy of the Dongyang clan. Even the sovereign can't protect you. You, and all of you, won't be able to escape death. How dare you be so arrogant in the face of death?" Su Fang's eyes suddenly burned with flames. The fiery light pierced through the void and landed in the old man's eyes equals N_1. The Fire Cloud Emperor physique had merged with the 1,000 illusion star fire. Apart from the domineering 9-sun immortal fire, it also had the ability to confuse one's nascent soul. The moment the flames landed in the elder's eyes, the elder's nascent soul became confused. In a battle between powerhouses, the slightest mistake could be fatal. It could determine life and death. In the blink of an eye, Gui Gui flew out like a demonic monster. With a whoosh, her body collapsed and turned into a blood sea that was 500 feet wide. Unlike the yellow spring blood sea formed by Su Fang, Gui Gui's blood was black and contained terrifying corrosive poison and the reincarnation divine might. Although the blood sea was smaller than Su Fang's, in terms of devouring and corrosive power, Even Su Fang was inferior to Gui Gui. This was because Gui Gui was a blood ghost that was born from blood essence. She was born with the advantage of cultivating the yellow spring blood sea. In addition, she had devoured countless poisons and cultivated the yellow spring reincarnation technique. Naturally, her devouring and corrosive power was extremely shocking. From the moment Gui Gui's blood sea covered the elder of the Dongyang clan to the moment it completely devoured his skin and bones, it only took about 10 breaths. A powerhouse at the peak of the 9th Dao Saint Immortal Realm was devoured by Gui Gui just like that. The people of World Palace, Zizhan, and the other cultivators of the main peak felt their scalps go numb when they saw this scene. They looked at Gui Gui with eyes full of fear and dread. Su Fang waved his hand and took Gui Gui into his body before flying into the sky. Dongyang Lai of the Dongyang clan trespassed on the main peak and attempted to rebel. He has committed a heinous crime and has been executed by me. Su Fang's voice spread across the entire silent great planet with the help of the world divine might. The mountains and immortal cities on the silent great planet were instantly filled with exclamations. The Dongyang clan, the sovereign, silent great celestial sovereign, never interfered with the affairs of the silent great planet. He left everything to the various clans. There were a total of 13 clans on the silent great planet, with the Dongyang clan as the leader. On the silent great planet, the Dongyang clan could be said to be the most powerful clan. No one dared to offend them. Dongyang Lai was the #1 genius disciple of the Dongyang clan. His cultivation talent was second only to the top 10 disciples of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. The Dongyang clan had high hopes for him. Now that Dongyang Lai had been killed, their young master had even publicly announced the news. What a powerful and domineering young master! Everyone's impression of the new Shao Zun changed drastically. Before this, when people mentioned Su Fang as their young master, they would think that Su Fang was a lucky country bumpkin who had been chosen by the Jihong Immortal Exalt and taken in as a disciple. They were extremely jealous of him. When Su Fang looted the treasure vault, everyone thought that he was reckless and would not be able to achieve great things. They were waiting to see Su Fang make a fool of himself. However, at this moment everyone was filled with shock. They were shocked by Su Fang's powerful and ruthless methods. Who dared to mock and look down on Su Fang? =_our download address, mobile reading, bibliographic review.